Race fans, the 100% Cup Series welcomes you to Texas Motor Speedway for the round of 12 in the playoffs. I'm Andre Graham-Busch, and alongside James Parfit and Carlos Costa, pushing the buttons, bringing all the action to your TVs and computers. James, this is going to be an interesting race. I've been listening in on the driver chatter here and there, and I think the general consensus is that a lot of drivers were dreading this race, and I think sometimes if a track is going to be that much of a challenge, the drivers are kind of hesitant to even jump in that car. Well, sometimes that puts on the best race.
It does, most definitely, and I think here today we're going to see an exceptional race from exceptional drivers. Yeah, it's not everybody's favorite. No track is, some people don't like every track on the calendar, but it's here, and they've just got to learn to try and adjust to it and learn it and get to know it, and they've got to really go out of their way to try and get everything correct with the car, what they're going to deal with, how the setup's going to go, because otherwise there's a wall on the outside, and it's not going to be the most forgiving wall, because it certainly isn't made of sponge, you know what I mean? And they're going to end up in that wall, and that's not going to be good for anyone.
No, it would not. And let's just talk a little bit about Texas Motor Speedway. It's an interesting track. I think some might consider this track to have been cursed from the very beginning. The very first time the NASCAR Cup Series ever went here, there was a massive pileup on lap 2, I think it was, and half the field was eliminated right away. And then the very next year, the same exact thing happened. So it's a tough track in a lot of ways. Turns 1 and 2, after the reconfiguration, the second reconfiguration actually, is a lot tighter feeling. When these drivers navigate 1 and 2, they're going to feel the front end start to wash out. They're going to be struggling to keep it down low. 3 and 4, for whatever reason, it's a lot more forgiving. In fact, on fresh tires, 3 and 4 will be almost flat out. It's going to be just about wide open. They're only going to have to lift once the tires wear. So you got two different ends of the track that race completely differently. And sort of like when we went to Darlington, it's one of those situations where the setup builders have a decision to make. Do I want to make the car fast at this part of the track or that part of the track? And I think we're going to see a lot of back and forth and a lot of overtaking as a result of that.
Yeah, and that's the thing. When you haven't got a consistent track almost, and you have got turns that are making a difference on your setup, you've got 20 degrees banking on turns 1 and 2 and 24 on turns 3 and 4. So you've got to try and find a balance. You can sit back and say, I want to be fast here and I want to be fast there. But if you're fast one, you're not as fast in the other one, which is going to affect the race as it goes on anyway. So it's really kind of, do you then look at trying to get a balance set up where you're quick in both, which would help you in the long run? So there is a lot of thinking involved, and at the end of the day, the guys and the setup builders have really got to go at this and think, what do we want to achieve? Can we hold the car in turn 3 and 4 if we're planning for 1 and 2, or can we hold it in 1 and 2 if we're planning for 3 and 4, or do we just balance it? And then, me personally, I would want a more balanced setup that was able to utilize throughout the circuit. But that's me, and Andre, as we know, we are in the booth for a reason. So at the end of the day, I would look at a balanced setup. I don't know how you feel.
Yeah, I mean, ideally, in a perfect world, I probably would take a balanced setup, but sometimes if you can make your car really fast at one part of the track and you feel like you can compensate for the lack of speed at the other end, that makes overtaking really possible. If you're that much faster at one part of the track, you can kind of drive it in a little bit deeper, have a little bit more grip, and make those overtakes. And I think track position is going to be really important tonight because dirty air is going to be a huge factor. These guys are going to be really close all night long, and when you're in the pack, that turbulent air is going to decimate the handling of your car. So if you can get out front early and you can have a clean track in front of you, it's going to be tough for anybody behind you to try and take that position away. Really, if you're the leader, the cards are in your hand, and it's just one of those situations. Now, another thing I'm noticing about the track today is, we're in Texas, and I had a buddy who went down to Texas earlier in the summer, and he said, buddy, let me tell you, Texas heat is just different. It gets hot down there, and it is hot right now in the sim. It's 102 degree track temp. and it is partly cloudy. So you know what that tells me, James? That tells me we're going to see a little bit of track temp variation, because there's still room to get hotter. It could potentially get up into the 110s, 113, or if we get some cloud cover, maybe dip down into the 90s. It's going to be fluctuating all day long, and that's going to be another thing these guys have to pay attention to. But we are hitting the grid as practice has come to a close. And of course, drivers have already qualified. So just going through our starting order, Blake Giglio takes the pole in that number 16 machine alongside Jason Taylor. Lucas Hoytsma, P3. Jonathan Delaney coming back to do some playoff racing here. Row 2 outside in 4th. Anderson is going to be P5 right next to Scrumeda. Alex Van de Sant is going to be P7. Ralph Hutchison, P8. Alex Murray 9th. And Nolan Hodgson 10th. James?
You're going to have in 11th place is Trevor Ryan, and then you're going to finish off at the top 12 with Jason Baker. So in 13th, you're going to have Tanner Marty and Rob Tracy in 14th, Ryan Samuelson in 15th, Matt DiCiani in 16th, Wayne Grass in 17th, Brandon Pierce in 18th, Mark Paget in 19th, Bryson Hicksborough in 20th place, Andre.
And just outside of the top 20, Bryson Alexander is going to be starting alongside Zach Roethlisberger. Matt Long going to be P23 right next to Matt White in 24th. Looking a little bit further back from these folks, we have, once the graphic scrolls, I can't quite make out that name. I'm looking at like 3 pixels here.
Right, so we've got Derek Heitman in 25th, mate. Carl Ammon in 26th. Jeff Hooper, 27th, Chad Sanna, 28th, Ross Brockman, 29th, Damien Acarenza in 30th, Randy Drumhiller in 31, Dalton Mobley in 32, Alex Princeton, 33, Kevin Steele, 34, Preston McRae in 35, and Damaris Hinkenbottom in 36. I believe we've got 2 more after that, which is Dustin Hall and Cody Bird, Andre.
I apologize for that. I've been having some internet issues, and the Discord stream with the grid went down to about, 144p, so I was looking at about 3 pixels. I appreciate the pickup there, James. The lights are off on the pace car, and again, Blake Giglio is going to be leading the way to the beginning of stage 1. Again, 3 stages as usual tonight, and we are about to get underway. Blake seems to be back in the field up into the Geico restart zone. And the green flag flies, and the inside gets a good shot there. Actually, some contact from his teammate. Lucas trying to push that 16 out front to get him clear, and they are going to do so successfully. Meanwhile, you got Jason Taylor on the high side trying to fend off a charging Jonathan Delaney, looking to make it 3 wide before we even get out of the first corner. Maybe didn't quite have the run there, but a bump draft to the back of the number 12. This is what I'm talking about, James. These guys are going to be doing this all night long. A lot of bump drafting, a lot of aero playing into how these cars are going to handle, and the start of the race was pretty fascinating.
Yeah, they're underway, and Giglio got out in the front, which is what we said was most important. Hoytsma behind them has got to push, because at the end of the day, they don't really want to get sort of dragged into the pack. They've opening up 2 temps currently, and they're working at it to try. As we can see, Lucas Hoytsma just about to go into the lead. Giglio there's really got to kind of slot him, Andre, but we've got a long race. They've still got, we're going out to lap 105 on stage 1, we're going to 210 on stage 2, and they're only on a 9 tyre limit for this race as well, so they've only got 9 sets of tyres. So what we were talking about earlier on about whether or not they've got to be careful, they're not going to obviously go into the wall, and it all kind of boils down that they've just got to be sensible over this first stage. Back in Darlington, we saw them go pretty much right up till the stage edge before we saw the first caution, and hopefully we should be able to see that one here as well.
Absolutely. I think the possibility of going caution-free is definitely there. When it comes to this track, it is a bit more of a methodical track, and you're not going to see a lot of aggression early on. So, this kind of single-file racing we're seeing right here, I think this is how we're going to sort out stage 1 for the most part. Nobody's going to get too in over their head, at least that's my prediction. We do have a little bit of lap traffic in front of the leaders. Now, I don't think that they're going to get to them anytime soon. Dustin Hall is generally pretty fast. He just missed the grid, I believe, and ended up starting a little bit behind the 8 ball. So he is in threat of going a lap down early on in this race. And if he can hold off the leaders, then he can get himself back to the tail end of the field if we get a caution or once we get to the first stage. Dustin had to take a provisional for this race. That's why he started towards the back to begin with. He had a funeral to attend and was unable to qualify. He made it just in time to hit the grid and try and take home a checkered flag. We'll see how his night progresses. But Jonathan Delaney, I want to point out him momentarily because he is up to third. He made the pass on Jason Taylor. And now he is actually running down our two front runners, Blake Giglio and Lucas Weitzman. He seems to have a slightly better car. But at the moment, this is going to be the tell-all, I think, James. If Delaney struggles to get around the leaders, that's going to tell us that Clean Air is massive.
Yeah, and do you know, the thing is people wouldn't necessarily sit back and think that dirty air can play a massive amount of difference in these cars. You know, we've discussed this before, and Joe, we've said, you know, aerodynamics, maybe not. You know, it's not open wheel, so they haven't got that wing pumping them down onto the floor. They haven't got it, but it still plays a difference. It loosens up the front end. They've got to try and get the car turned. And at the end of the day, yeah, we can sit here and say they're a box on four wheels, but at the end of the day, dirty air still affects it. And if you're sitting in the middle of the pack, say where you're looking from 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th down the field, it's dirty air across the whole pack. So every single one of them drivers is struggling for dirty air at the moment, and every single one of them are all running different setups, and every single one of them want to go forward. So there's a lot they've got to try and maintain as the race goes on, and we have 334 laps, so they've got to try and keep it clean. As you can see, the 81 car there of Ryan Samuelson, it was at the time, trying to go around the outside, but they've got a nice wide track. It allows for, you know, 2 wide racing, 3 wide racing, but it's who's going to try the outside seems to be the thing we're looking at the moment, Andre. You know, everybody's single file, they're all hugging the inside. Maybe as the race goes on, or as we get towards the stage end, we might see the banks 2 and the outside, but at the moment, nobody's really risking it.
And that's exactly it. That's a good point. It is a lot of drivers running the bottom right now, and nobody has been brave enough to move up to the top. And I think if the track temp were to go down a little bit, and if some drivers were to migrate up there and start laying down some rubber now so that it could compound over the course of the race, maybe the high line could become effective, especially on worn tires where your turning radius just in general isn't going to be able to hold the apex anyhow. But right now, early on in this run, early in the race, no less, the bottom's going to be preferred, and that's what's making passing so difficult, and that's what's making the dirty air so prevalent. Is, you know, normally the solution to dirty air is just run a different line. But right now, they don't really have that option.
No, they don't, but there has been some passes moving on. You know, Alex Prinson's up 8. Damaris Higginbottom's up 6. Preston McRae's up 6. Acrenza is up 4. So there's been movement. But we're looking at the banks of movement and the groups of movement. It's been mainly down the field. You know, you're starting at really, you've got Lucas Hoitzma obviously up 2, Delaney up 1, Murray up 3, Ryan's now up 3, and then you go down the field and you've got a couple of there, Wayne Grass up 4, but it's mainly the bottom half, 25th, 26th, 27th, 28th, 29th and 30th and 34th have all gained positions, so they are making that overtake.
And it looks like we've got a move for second place. Jonathan Delaney trying to get underneath Hoitzma. There's some contact there. A little bit of contact is going to put these guys side by side, heading into 3 and 4. We're going to see, can Hoitzma hold on to that high line? I know he's not going to be able to. You can see through his windshield, Jonathan Delaney makes short work of him on the bottom. Now 1 more car to go. And man, if John is having to move people and kind of nudge them out of the way on fresh tires, you know passing's got to be pretty difficult. To see that kind of aggression early on, that may be the only way that these guys can make these passes.
Yeah, the only thing I'm worried about with that is that was kind of straightforward Delaney from Delaney. Do you know what I mean? He got the pass done, a slight little nudge, gave him a little bit of a movement. But if them nudges get a little bit harder, and with the iRacing configuration, as we all know, can all of a sudden, a little tap can turn into a wall visit, they're going to have to be a little bit more careful. And when the grip comes off, the slides come in. When the slides come in, you're not going to be wanting to risk anything. But at the same time, they've got to risk it to move up. So there's a lot in play, and I think at the end of the day, you know, Delaney got away with that one. It was only a slight tap. It could have been a lot worse if these guys had hooked up together. They both would have been going round. So they are going to have to be a little bit careful. You know, we say caution-free is a possibility, but with the drop-off on grip and the slide and the riskiness of the configuration of iRacing, it might be a little bit naive of us to say we might make it completely caution-free.
And to add to your point about the slides, Texas is not a track that really prefers the car to be loose. You can see on the bottom of the track there is a lot of rubber on the bottom. That's kind of why they're running there. And then you see the track starts to turn a lighter gray in a sort of gradient as you move up the track. Well, the further into the gray you get, the less grip you're going to have. So it's almost a snowballing issue. Once you start sliding, you're going to slide to the place where you have less grip, which means you're going to slide even more. So keeping that front end locked down and just really glued to that pavement, that is what these guys are going to want to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think behind Alex Murray and Jason Taylor were at one point side. No, it's okay. They managed to make it through. There you go. There is Alex Murray and Jason Taylor. They have just swapped positions. And Robert Anderson is looking as well. And the problem is as well, though, with this is if you're going too wide and you're out on that light grey area, which we can visually see, and you start sliding, the only way you're going to go is downwards. And the only way the things that are going to be down there are the people that you're going to try and overtake on the inside. So I think when we approach a track like this, there's so much to be taken into consideration. And even though, you know, we can have the people that will be like, oh, it's oval, it's this, it's this, it's this. But, you know, they've got to be thinking about what the risk is. Is there a risk being up on that light high line and sliding down? That was a little bit close there from Robert Anderson, I've got to be honest. And Hutchinson almost made contact as well. But Anderson's kind of stuck out there now, Andre, isn't he? Everybody's trying to come through underneath him.
Oh yeah, he got hung out to dry right up in those marbles where we pointed out you don't have a whole lot of grip. And once he got slid up there, he's going to go 3 wide here momentarily. It's going to be driving backwards for him until he can find a way to slot back down. 3 wide still, unable to find any room. He's going to try to pinch the double O, Damaris Hickenbottom, down to, or I'm sorry, not the double O, the number 18, I believe that is. Again, I'm looking at a very small amount of pixels there thanks to Discord, but I'm surprised at the amount of side-by-side racing we're seeing here, James. It seems like maybe those higher lines are starting to become a little bit more viable. Like we said, the longer the race goes on, the more viable they become. Well, you know, they may not be the preferred line. It may not be the fastest way around the track, but with all the side-by-side I'm seeing, I can't say that it's a death sentence to be up there.
No, and I think as it goes on, you know, as the race more progresses and more drivers go out there, because if everybody's on the inside, where have you got to go? You've only got the outside to go, Andre. So as the outside gets more and more grip on it and tyre wear and everything else, then the option does become viable. So we've got Roy and Becky's Travels, get them 53. So that's Preston McRae there. And obviously good to see Michael David in the YouTube chat as well. So welcoming you guys. But I think they've got to risk and reward this. And I think, you know, that's going to be the thing. They've got to risk and reward. Is it worth going for the risk? Am I going to get a reward out of this, or am I going to get the wall? And I'm probably a little bit more on the conservative side, I think. But then again, I'm not driving around on the track, so, you know, see how that one pans out for them.
I'm right there with you. I've always said you're going to lose more time overdriving than you will ever lose underdriving. I think playing it safe is generally the more beneficial tactic, as we were kind of momentarily on board with the Preston McRae. So Roy and Becky's Travels can get a look at where their driver is running and just try to keep tabs on him. But another thing I wanted to point out about this track that I'm noticing here is that I think tire wear is already starting to play a factor. I'm noticing the lap times are starting to fall off, and little by little, they're starting to move up off that white line. Lap 1, they were right down on that white line. They were glued to it, and now they're, half a lane up, and I think that's going to continue to progress as these tires wear. And this is such a tough track to preserve your tires. Not only is it super hot, so you're sliding around, you're killing your tires, but again, 1 and 2 is such a tight turning radius for the amount of speed that you're actually carrying. It's difficult. If you want to save, you've got to back up those corners. You've got to watch that center tape on your steering wheel. Make sure that you are not over-rotating that steering wheel. And really, like you said, just have to play it conservative. Otherwise, you're going to cook your tires. Now, we do have a stage end at lap 105. And with the amount of fuel that these cars can hold, they're not going to be able to make it to the end. There is going to be some green flag stops, presuming that it stays green. Big slide out of Murray. It was a big moment there, but he was able to keep it going. As I was saying, though, they are going to have to think about stopping under green, which also means they got to think about that tire limit. For this race, I believe, if I can pull it up right here.
9.
Yep, 9. Whoa! Delaney.
Oh, no. Delaney nearly there with Murray. Come to contact, Andre. They managed to sort it out, and Delaney didn't go to the one place that we were talking about, which is the big lumps of concrete on the outside. So they got away with that one.
Yeah, and I gotta wonder if Delaney didn't cook his tires trying to run as fast as he was early in this race. We're gonna take a look at a replay. 3-wide TV multicam, top of the screen. Keep your eye on that black and pink number 6. Just going to get a little bit loose, I think, out of the corner. Let's see. Yeah, just a bit of a wiggle there. And when he corrects it, he just puts himself in that safer barrier just barely. And that opens the door for Murray to get around him on the bottom. But, that's all it takes sometimes. That slight little wiggle, that little mistake can cost you a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're talking about lap times and how they've dropped off. They're nearly out at 2 seconds. If you look at Giglio, his best lap time was a 30.19. Okay, so he's running 30.19. He's now running 32.05s. So it's showing that we're on lap 29. We are going to see, if we can hold green flag, we are going to see green flag stops, because he's almost 2 seconds slow already. So they've got to try and look at preserving their tires. So if we run down the long list, Andre, of what they've got to do while they're driving these cars. Okay, so you've got to drive it, can't over-rotate it, obviously try and not make contact with anybody else, don't try and slide the car, preserve your tyres, keep it out of the wall, and try and make overtakes at the same time. It's straightforward, right, for us to sit here and mention it, but for them in the car, that's not easy by any short of the imagination.
No, not at all. And on top of that, they got to be thinking about strategy. When are they going to come down pit road? Ooh, Wayne Grassy with a bit of a moment there. He's going to be able to slot back in the top line, now back to the bottom. We're seeing a lot of near misses here, James. I think that's kind of a sign that these cars are really starting to go away, and they are a handful.
Ryan Samuelson was in the wall then as well. Ryan Samuelson played pinball with the wall. Car number 81 running the high line for a while, and then unfortunately he did tag at the wall a few times. So they are losing these cars. They are losing these cars already, and we're only on lap 31. Very hot. Spoke about the fact that your buddy was down in Texas. He said, I spoke to my friend earlier on today who lives out in Texas. He's like, it's hot and heat everywhere. These guys are in for what could be some very interesting management of tires and heat and different type of heat, and the tire wear is kicking in, and we're on lap 32.
Now, one thing that actually is going in the driver's favor that I really didn't expect is a pretty stable track temp. Now, yes, it is a hot track temp. It is 102 degrees. But that 102 degrees is exactly what it was when we started this race back on lap 1. So far, the cloud coverage has been, well, there is no cloud coverage. There's been no overcast so far. So the temps have remained pretty stable, which means that these guys have a consistent surface to race on, and that kind of prevents them from having to make any more calculations on the fly. Hey, what do I do if the track starts to heat up, or what do I do if it cools down? Well, they don't have to think about that right now. Now, we just had another near moment out of the 57. I want to point out there is a fill-in driver behind the wheel of that number 57. Typically, it'd be Cameron Stone piloting the Coors Light number 57, but he is attending the real-life late model races at Martinsville tonight, and he picked Hutchison to be his fill-in, who recently left LDR on his own accord mid-season and was kind of a free agent. And Cam said, well, I know you're fast, and I'm not going to be able to be in the car, so climb on in, get me some points, and see what you can do. And so far, he's doing a great job. He's been running in the top 10 all night long. And another driver that's been doing a good job, I want to point this out. Look at that knee-high septic machine right behind him. That car started in 20th. That's Bryson Hicksonbaugh, and he's up there battling for what I believe to be 8th. So, man, what a race and what a charge to the front it's been for him.
Yeah, that's a 12th place gain. Matt Long from Lockdown is also 12 as well. So there are some gainers. We're seeing some things work. Bit worried about Hutchinson at the moment. He's kind of sitting that high line out, and everybody just seems to be getting underneath him. And I would have thought that he would have kind of thought, well, actually, it's kind of not working. Obviously, you know, he can't lay rubber on his own. He needs more than him out there to try and make that outside line viable. So I'm quite surprised he's still continually riding. I think that's what I'm trying to say. I think I would have thought he might have dropped back in. I know air on the side of caution, but not if you're losing places as much as Hutchinson currently is, I suppose.
Yeah, it is odd. He is kind of going in the wrong direction right now, and it seems like he's running that high line, and it is costing him a lot of time, like you said. So we'll see what happens later on. Maybe this is some sort of strategy to try and preserve the tires. Don't pinch it down to the bottom. Don't turn that wheel too far. Just take it easy now so that maybe you got speed later. But if they want to split this stage in half, there's not a whole lot of laps remaining before they'd come down pit road. Again, 105 lap first stage. We're approaching we're on lap 38, headed towards 39. So give it about 10 to 15 more laps. You're going to see pit road get pretty busy. If he's going for a long run strategy, well, we're in the long run and it's not paying off.
No, definitely not as well. Michael on YouTube, they're getting loose, getting real loose early. They are, young man, but I want to discuss the fact that it is your birthday, so happy birthday to Michael David in YouTube chat there. Supposed to be having a meal with your wife, mate. Get out of YouTube chat and go and enjoy the evening with your missus. You know, at the end of the day, you should be sat in YouTube chat having a conversation with us. You're supposed to be at the dinner table. I'm sure she's not too happy about you watching your phone, probably. But I think at the end of the day, early on, if you're going to be running the outside and you're losing positions, you would drop back down. If you're running a long game and you think maybe the outside line might become viable and come into me later on, I would have thought you'd still run the inside. But as we can see, you know, there are still the runners on the outside but losing places. So I would have thought trying to keep track position at the same time. Andre, or am I out of reach here? Am I batting for a 6 and I'm only hitting a 4 ball or something? Because I'm a little bit confused why you would run an outside line if you're dropping places. I know we're only on lap 40. They're getting loose already, so I understand that picture, but I don't get it. I'm a bit confused.
No, I'm with you. I think you're pretty dead on there. It is a line that's not working right now, and that's pretty evident. Everybody who moves up there, at least too far. I think you can get away with being a lane or two up from the bottom, but once you get up into that light gray, like we mentioned, that's where you've got problems. That's where you're no longer having a fun time. And, you know, you can see the 18 back of the screen there. Whoa! Wayne Grassy, big slide. He's able to save that thing, but tell you what, James, how many near misses like that can we have before disaster really strikes?
Well, they say they come in banks of 3 and then you use them all up. That's the third one. I'd like to point out. It's the third time I've heard Carlos in my ear go, whoa! So, you know, we're on 3 already, and I think if we're going to get to a 4th one, it could end up complete and utter disaster. But Trevor Ryan has been riding that outside line like a trooper. Now he's stuck to his guns, but in the last few laps, he's lost 4 positions. And I don't know. But the next near miss could be our first caution, which would then run a full pit lane of everyone, I think, because I think, to be honest, I think they're all sitting there hoping for a caution, because they are losing tyres and we're on lap 43.
That is true. And, you know, the more I think about it, perhaps running that high line is a bit of a security measure. When the car starts to get loose, I would imagine the bottom, and when you're cranking on that steering wheel, that rear end's probably trying to step out on you. And it may be a little bit quicker, but it's probably a lot harder of a line to hold. Maybe they're running the top because they know it's slower, but at the same time, they feel confident they can run that line lap after lap and not feel like they're going to spin out or that the car's going to jump out on them. I mean, early on, lap 44 out of 334, you don't want to make too many mistakes now. You don't want to get too crazy. And we've seen how loose these cars have gotten. Wayne Grassy, the number 57, Hutchison, he's gotten loose a few times. Delaney having that big wiggle there earlier. I think maybe running a safer line that's slower may be the reason they're doing it, but who knows? It's really kind of an enigma to me because this track is just so unique as far as mile and a halves go. Maybe in a good way, maybe in a bad way, I'm not to say, but we do have our first taker down pit road, James. That is going to be Jason Taylor in the number 12 machine. Coming down a little bit early, but who knows? Maybe an undercut could be the call.
Is he early, though? Is he? I think the problem is he early? The cars are sliding. We've seen it already. So has he made the call when he needs to, or has he made that unfortunate call where that next near miss we were talking about, we're going to end up with a yellow flag? So if they're hanging it out for yellows, I think they're brave. I think it could also be detrimental to them. As we see the 81 car, Ryan Samuelson, now he's had a contact with a wall, bouncing along the wall a couple of times. I'm no surprise he's taken the early stop as well. But I think if they're hanging, he's missed it, he's got a reverse, there you go. I think if they're hanging out for a yellow, they may be, Andre, to be honest with you, mate, I think they're out of luck because I don't think we're going to hit it. And I think there's going to be more goes in. Now the trouble is obviously you go in too late, you risk the fall off the cliff with the tyres and you've got nothing. Go in too early, you risk dropping back from the field too far. So they've got to play it right. And lap 47, so they've gone 47 laps with having to change tyres already. Next couple of laps, I think if it stays green, we might see a rush.
I agree. I think it's going to get real busy real fast. Now, you did mention that earlier in the race, Samuelson had contact with the wall. Now, I want to use that opportunity just to remind the fans at home. I believe we talked about it last week, but I'll bring it up again because it is a very new thing with iRacing. But they do have the new accumulative damage model, meaning multiple small hits will essentially add up to be one big hit in terms of the damage caused to your car. It all adds up over time, whereas it used to be, if you hit the wall just a little bit, you could hit the wall a little bit 5 times, and the car didn't really care. It was pretty much the same. That initial impact was the only damage you'd acquire. Now, if you hit the wall harder later on, yes, you're going to add more damage to that, but it didn't really accumulate in the way that it would in real life. Now, if you scrape that wall 3, 4, 5 times, you're going to be really beaten up on that toe link on the right front. You're going to be beating up on your axle. You're going to be beaten up on your bodywork, and it's going to start to feel pretty bad as the race goes on. You can see there's the toe link right there. That's what's you really got to worry about braking early on when you're hitting that wall. You got to make sure that, well, you're just not hitting the wall in general. I don't know that there's a good way to do it, but yeah, it adds up over time, and that's a new thing that these guys have to keep track of. How many times have I hit the wall?
The weirdest thing with that is, you know, I've got a 7-seater car, and I'm pretty sure it wouldn't like me continually hitting it against the wall before all of a sudden it snaps. So realistically, the new damage model has come into its own. As we can see there, that's Jason Baker heading down pit road. So the new damage model has really kind of caught up with real life, which is great. But they're going to have to look at whether or not they can get any form of optionals done at the same time. Could Ryan Samuelson, did he have any optionals from tugging that wall to see if that can counteract the wall bangs? But I think overall, consistently hitting the wall, Andre, is never good anyway. You know, sooner or later you're going to hit the wall and you're going to put your tyres out of line. But consistently doing it softly, something's going to break. So can optionals play a part as well? Can they get it repaired within their pit stop if they have done it? It's going to be a trade-off, I think. It's going to be whether or not they can get the damage done, repaired at, within their pit stops, and they're not losing too much time.
Now, going back to repeatedly hitting the wall, I've got to put Jonathan Delaney on blast. I was recently reminded of a race from a few years ago when it got recommended to me, where a few years back, Bryson Hixenbaugh hosted the 1986 Southern 500. It was in the old 1980 stock cars, and it was a full-length race at Darlington. In that race, John seemed to have a magnet in his car that just pulled him to the wall every lap. And when that race was said and done, he had somewhere in the ballpark of 170 X's. Now, for reference, a hard hit to the wall is 2X, a hard hit to a car is 4X, and a gentle tap to a car is 0X. So essentially, John hit the wall no less than 60 times. He's not going to be able to do that tonight. He's already hit the wall a time or two, but he's going to have to make sure he doesn't repeat his Southern 500 experience.
No. The problem with that is, obviously, if he's going to go out and start hitting the wall at the amount of times, as we see more people into the pits, Matt Long, Wayne Grass is into the pits as well. So another two sort of almost early, sensible. We'll see how this one pans out as the race goes on. They definitely aren't going to get away with hitting a consistent wall, right? No car is going to hold that. It doesn't matter what car you're in. You're not going to hold it. You could be in a truck or a semi, as you guys are probably more known in them as, and you're going to continue to hit it against something, it's going to break, right? It's just logic and physics that continue damage in the same area. It's going to break eventually. So they're not going to be able to constantly repeat hitting a wall. They're not going to want to constantly repeat hitting a wall, Andre. And at the end of the day, they've got to try and find a way around it. If that means adjusting strategies, then they might have to adjust it. They meet, as we've got now, Robert Anderson, Nolan Hodgson, and Ralph Hutchinson in the pits as well. Oh, there's a spinner at the beginning of the pits there.
Oh.
Was that Nolan Hodgson? Or no, it might have been Ralph Hutchinson.
Oh,
Ralph
wow.
Hutchinson was on the pit lane entry, and he's come down, and it looks like he's gone round. Whether or not that was a contact with somebody else on the run in there, or he went round all on his own. Maybe we can see if Carlos can weave his gentle wizardry, his wizardry magic in the background to see what we can do. Just pick up how that happened. But any damage is not good damage, so they've got to try and balance it all out. I think that's where I was going with the story.
Just came in a little too hot, got on the brakes a little too hard, and kind of shifted that weight to the front of the car, and the rear end slid out. But he didn't hit the wall, he didn't hit the car ahead, and I don't think he got a penalty. So he lost a few seconds, but overall, that could have been worse. That seems to be my catchphrase. It could have been worse, and fortunately, he's able to get out and away. Here comes our race. Well, our former race leader, Blake Giglio, is making his way down pit road, and that's going to leave his teammate Hoytsma, as well as Van de Sant, Delaney, Hixenbaugh, Pierce, and Murray, as well as, I believe, Heitman, Scrumeta, Dicciani, and Roethlisberger are yet to pit, but everybody behind them, I believe, has made their way to their pit stall, got that car serviced. So we are very close to figuring out where everybody cycles through, and now this is where things get kind of hard to track, because we're going to have a lot of drivers on a lot of varying ages of tires. We've got some guys that came down on lap 45. We got some drivers coming down now on lap 60. But a huge group of cars, pretty much all of the leaders that stayed out, Bryson Hixenbaugh, Jonathan Delaney, Alex Murray, all these guys coming down pit road. Oh, and Van de Sant overshoots. That's what, the fourth car we've seen overshoot, Jan.
Yeah, they're struggling. Another one there
5.
as well. Tanamati has overshot his box as well. I think there's going to be another one there as well. Car number 29. And there you go, the 18 as well, Trevor Ryan.
Oh my goodness.
I don't know. I don't know what's going on here, mate. I think at the end of the day, he's missed it as well. He's 38. What's going on?
What on earth is happening?
Are these the guys? 24 just missed as well. Are these the guys that have left it too late? Oh, 24 made it. He made it there as well. So well done, Preston McRae. 53. No, Preston McRae stopped a little bit early.
Yeah, the opposite issue. He stopped too soon.
Okay, so hold on. We've got people overshooting it. We've got Preston McRae who didn't even make it. So, you know, we've got a full mix of what's happening here today. I'm wondering, I'm so confused by that. I'm wondering if the tyres have gone off. I think 40's just, well, he was just going backwards and forwards. But I wonder if the tyres are gone. I'm wondering if these are the guys that are the late ones that they've gone completely and that's why they're trying to struggle to stop. You know, Hoytsman's now in the pits as well, so the leader is in the pits. I want to point out one thing we've got going on at the moment. So the first car is pitted round about lap 47. The leader pitted on 62. So there was quite a big travel difference in laps between when the first person stopped to when the leader pitted. So we'll have to keep an eye and see how that one pans out as the race goes on. And whether or not who that actually benefited more, because you know there's quite a big difference between the laps.
Yeah, it is going to be a little bit difficult to track a lot of different strategies, and again, we're going to have drivers that are out here on 20-lap old tires. We're going to have some drivers on fresh tires, and we're going to see those cars come together. The closing rate's going to be pretty insane. Yeah, my working theory for that pit road pandemonium though is. Maybe a crew member spilled their 50-gallon jar of Vaseline. I'm not 100% sure, but a lot of sliding down pit road as here comes the 52 machine. He's going to be very conservative in his pit stall. He's not locking up the tires. He's not sliding. He's saying, well, I saw what everybody else did, and I'm going to play it safe. But new race leader for the moment, Mara Hickenbottom. He's one of the only drivers that has yet to come down pit road. Jason Taylor will inherit the lead sooner rather than later. Now, he was the first driver down pit road, which now this is going to be fun because Jason Taylor will have clean track in front of him. He's going to have the track position, but he's also going to have the oldest tires in the field. And I don't know about you, James, but I like a good game of defense, and that's exactly what Jason's going to be playing here pretty soon.
Yeah, and I don't think it's going to take much. I want to point out that Ryan Samuelson, who was the second man into the pits round about lap 47, is actually out. So I'm not quite sure what happened to Ryan Samuelson there, but he's not in the race anymore, so that's a bit of a shame. But then again, we did see him have contact with the wall, but I don't think that would have caused that much of a disaster. But Jason Taylor now as oldest tyres in the book. Can he hold it? Will he be pitting round about, if we're on the suspect of what he managed to do, round about 47, we're looking at about another lap 94 between, I think we're looking at between 88 and 94 on when he's going to come next in. Damaris is in now as well, Hickenbottom's in as well, so that is Taylor's lead. So yeah, he's going to be one of the early ones if we continue to run green, I think.
I agree. Now Damaris taking his pit stop, that's going to put him down the running order. But he did lead a couple laps. Now, Damaris was eliminated in the round of 16 of the playoffs. He's out here racing for trophies, trying to do some trophy hunting. But as for playoff eligibility, he was one of the 4 eliminated. Alongside Kevin Steele as well, he was another driver eliminated. And I'm trying to think who the other 2 were. I apologize, man.
Robert Anderson and Devin Medeiros.
Yes, Medeiros. It's a shame to see Medeiros out in the round of 16. He was just barely, you can see right there, there's the current points graphic for the round of 12 coming into this race. That's how it was. That is not as they run, that was at the grid. Alex Murray just beneath the cut line, RJ Root clinging to life there in a Cam Stone, who again has a fill-in driver for the night, also beneath the cut line. So that's former league champion having some issues there. But yeah, no, it's the playoffs, man. Sometimes drivers that you wouldn't expect make it in, and sometimes drivers you wouldn't expect don't make the cut. But in the case of Medeiros, he made it in such dramatic fashion, just barely pointing his way in at Daytona. right at the end of the season. Really seemed to light a fire under him. It seemed like his performance was in the upward trend, and then unfortunately just had some bad luck in the round of 16, and well, that's all she wrote for the season. But there's Cody Berg. I want to point out Cody in the number 13 as he is currently being overtaken by Hoytsma here. Cody Berg has not raced in, I want to say, well over a month, but he decided to come back for tonight. We're glad to have him back on track. Cody does a lot for the league. He handles pretty much all of the stat sheets and things like that. So glad to have him back in that beautiful number 13 Subway machine as he is trying to battle it out with Damaris. But I think Damaris has fresher tires. He's going to go around on the bottom. And I don't know. You know, Damaris is towards the back of the grid right now, but I've seen it before where Damaris just kind of kicks on the afterburners late in the race. So we'll see what he does.
Yeah, I think they're both him and Cody pitted round about lap 59. We have got Cameron Stone in chat, actually. He's really pointed out, if y'all could slide me a smooth 20 points, that'd be cool. So, yeah, if we could, anybody want to give Cam Stone 20 points, I suppose?
Bryson had some points to spare.
Yeah, you know, the point people above could do it, I suppose. But we'll have to see how this one works out, Cam. You know, Hutchinson down in 14th at the moment. So, yeah, I'll have to see what he can do. Hopefully he'll get pit entry a little bit more, well, what can I say, better, I suppose, would be a word, to make sure he doesn't put the car around again. But see how it pans out.
Absolutely. Now, Jason Taylor is still clinging on to the lead. I want to mention this gap between first and second because while Jason Taylor has held on to that number 1 position, Matt Long has just been chipping away at that lead. Last time I checked, he was something to the tune of 6 seconds back. Now it's only about 1 second up to the leader. So he's closing in. The question is he going to be able to make the pass? Because while he does have fresher tires than Jason Taylor, you got to think, running down the leader and pushing the car that hard also is going to use up your equipment. So you got to play a balancing act where you're closing in, but you're not pushing yourself too hard. Actually, Blake Giglio is going to try and take P2 here from Matt Long. Looks like he's got a bit of long run speed. There's Preston McRae in the 53, currently, I believe, 1 lap down in the midst of this battle. But there's lap time differences between Taylor, Giglio, and Long. You see Giglio is just solid green across the board and not in a small margin. 8 and 9/10 of a second per lap. And Matt Long also gaining. You can see 2/10 here, 2/10 there. A little bit slower on 73, but that was a lap where he was battling with Giglio. So these guys are definitely running down the leader, but this will be the interesting part. Can they use their setups and their knowledge to make this pass, or is the dirty air going to hold them back?
Yeah, they're closing at a rate of knots. That's underside. You know, we can see that on the screen currently at the moment. They're closing at a quick speed. As we see Giglio try and look at going around the outside of Jason Taylor. Kind of using that 53 car in front. Taylor's got really nowhere to go apart from staying on that inside line. Giglio's giving him a good old squeeze using the 53 car Preston McRae in front of him to pull him into the lead. So tyre difference 14 laps. Taylor around about 88 to 96. If he's running on a consistent green, we should see him in then as well. So I don't think it was a question really, Andre, as if he was going to get caught. I think it was more likely when he was going to get caught, because I think now he's under more pressure to try and stay ahead of Matt Long.
Yeah, and you know, Matt Long is surprising me right now because again, he was closing in so quick. He had 6 seconds to make up, brought it down to 1 second. Now he's 2 seconds behind our leader, Blake Giglio. It seems like he had a lot of short run speed. That car was incredibly fast out of pit road, but now as the run's going on a little ways, not quite into what I would call a long run, but mid-run, the car is starting to fade, and that's not usually Matt Long's MO. Matt Long seems to generally be a full stint kind of driver. When the laps are winding down and everybody else is starting to fatigue, he comes to life, and that's kind of been what I've seen out of him. And this is very strange. Look at this down the running order again. He's been passed by Delaney, Hixenbach, Hoytsma, Van de Sande, just dropping through the grid.
Yeah, it's strange, really, because it's not what you would expect from long, but it's happening. Now, is it happening for a reason? Is there safety there? Is there precaution there? There's a lot of things going on in that number 97 car that me and you aren't seeing. So, I don't know. I think we just have to see how and where Long ends up. He's still up 16 places. It's clearly no slouch behind the wheel of that Ford. So, see how it pans out, Andre. Maybe we're not giving him enough credit for the 16th place gain, rather than worrying about where he's chopping down to.
Yeah, that could. Ooh, big slide there out of John Delaney.
Yeah.
That could be the case. It's easier to notice when somebody's going the wrong way than when they're doing something right. I think, maybe he's taking it easy, trying to save those tires. Maybe that's.
Oh, Damaris just hit the wall.
Again, that's, I think, the second hit to the wall for Damaris. That is going to start adding up real quick. But, it's tough. Again, when the faster cars are coming to pass you and you move up to the top line to try to give them room, once you're in that gray, once you're in the marbles, you're kind of along for the ride. You have to be extremely cautious how you drive that high line, because one bad input, one missed mark, and you're going to be having a real bad time. So not a track where I necessarily envy the lapped cars. It's not an easy track to be side by side or to battle, despite how wide it is. These guys are doing a great job of it. No cautions thus far, but it's tough, and it's really putting these drivers through their paces. But shout out to Damaris. He's running almost on pace with these guys. I would say actually on pace with these guys. He's now underneath Lucas Weitzman. He's going to take the bottom line here. I said before, sometimes Damaris is a little bit slow out the gate, and then he just gets better all night. Well, he's a lap down. None of this is for position, but if nothing else, he's showing us that he has some speed, because, hey, we saw that 07 leading the race earlier, and Damaris is matching his speed.
Yeah, we're not going to sit here and take anything away. We've sat here before, and we've seen people laps down, and we're questioning about the fact that they're lap down, but then it all could change within a yellow, and there's nothing detrimental where Damaris is currently. He's down in 29th position. We've seen him move up, done it at Charlotte, he's done it at Daytona, so there's more of an opportunity for him to go forward, because let's face it, the only way can be up. So fair play to Damaris. If he takes a while to get into the race and he puts on this kind of good performance for us to sit here and say to how well he's doing, fair play to him.
Now, if Damaris wants to be eligible for the Lucky Dog when the stage caution flies, he's going to have to take that Lucky Dog from Damien Ace Lorenze, who is currently the Lucky Dog as of right now, provisionally. He is the first car a lap down. Of course, as the leaders run, they're going to start getting into some more lap traffic, and that is subject to changes. It actually has. Ace Lorenze has been overthrown for the Lucky Dog by Preston McRae, who recently just went a lap down, and Alex Brinson's not far either, 31 seconds behind the leader. That means the leader is pretty much right behind him, ready to pounce. So the battle for Lucky Dog is changing very quickly as these leaders get through more and more lap traffic, and that means for a lot of these guys that are lap down, they're fighting an uphill battle.
Yeah, it's tough, isn't it? But then one caution can change. It's always tough the more you drop down the order. I think that's probably why what we're trying to say is, obviously the further you go down, the more chance you have got of being lapped, and then the less chance you've got of getting the caution, so therefore the less chance you've got of even trying to get it back. So it's not something, I suppose, in a way, Andre, that you kind of want to happen to you, and you'd kind of go out of your way to try and get it back in some form. But the only problem with trying to get it back is then puts you into the pack of everybody that's lapped you, which gives the added dimension of incidents, cautions. If you cause a caution with a car that's a lap ahead of you, are they going to be happy with you? Absolutely not. Should you have been there in the first place, where you're trying to get a lap back, you've got every right to be there. So there's a lot going on with these lap traffic as well, and the leaders have got to be careful, and it can all get a little bit fiddly, and mistakes can happen, and people could trip over each other. I think that's where I was going with my story at that point.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right, though. It's just one of those situations. I believe Drumhiller is now the lucky dog as we follow along with this battle. That is Jonathan Delaney trying to make some overtakes, but here comes a longtime rival to Delaney, Bryson Hixenbaugh. He's going to send it down right on the bottom, and Delaney is not going to leave him an inch. He was trying to pinch him down if he could, and I tell you what, it is always a great show anytime these guys get together on the track because, you know, their rivalry, sometimes you see playful rivalries. This isn't a playful rivalry. Bryson Hixenbaugh does not like Jonathan Delaney, and he has made that explicitly clear. At the beginning of the season, John actually tried to bury the hatchet with Bryson Hixenbaugh. He wanted to say, okay, you know, can we be cool this season? And Bryson said, why would anything change because it's a new season? I still don't like you. That was his words exactly. So anytime these guys get near each other on the track, you never quite know what's going to happen.
Is there a reason for that? Have I missed something? Or they just is it just a physical? I don't know. Did they come to contact somewhere?
Oh, they've come to contact before a few times. It honestly goes all the way back to season 1 in the league. John, I guess this is a good exposition for the viewers at home who maybe haven't been following along, and of course for you, James. John is a very good driver. He is incredibly fast. But in all my years of racing, and I've been racing RC cars for well over 16 years, and I've been in the sim racing community for a while now, what I've noticed is that drivers who are fast, the last thing they learn is how to race fast and clean at the same time. Guys who are fast tend to be wrecking balls at the start. And John, you know, I'm not trying to throw you under the bus here. John was a wrecking ball. He hit everything under the sun. I was quoted as saying John would wreck his mother to get through a Walmart checkout line faster. And he got into Bryson a number of times, and eventually it just came to a head, and Bryson retaliated, and from there it just sort of snowballed to a rivalry that continues to this day.
The good thing about that is it makes it interesting racing if they're going to be near each other on track. You know, Alex van der Zand is kind of sat in the middle at the moment. So I suppose from that side of things, it's good that we've got that to talk about. You know, we've got something to mention because rivalries happen everywhere. You've got them in all sports. You know, I'm going to say football, but you guys call it soccer, and you got the American football rivalry, and you got rugby rivalries, and then you got athletic rivalries, and rivalries can be good because sometimes they can spur you on to do better if you know that your rival is behind you. But it's when things start getting messy on track is kind of where we don't really want to see the rivalries as much, I guess, take form. I don't know, would you bury the hatchet with me, Andre, if I come to contact with you quite a few times in a race?
Well, you know, I think it all depends on context. Listen, I hold a grudge for sure, but I think if somebody comes up to me and they apologize and they say, hey, I'm sorry, I messed up, you know, I'm going to try and do better, and then they actually do better, you know, on the track, I see that they're not quite as reckless or quite as crazy as they were before, I'm willing to forgive and forget. But the interesting thing about the Delaney and Hixenbaugh rivalry is that we've seen so many other rivalries in this league. Hixenbaugh himself was involved with another rivalry with a driver by the name of Adam Benefield, who now, a year later, is his teammate, somebody who he's good friends with, races with very cleanly. That's a rivalry that came and went. Cameron Stone and, well, probably half the drivers in this field have been involved in a rivalry with Cam Stone at one point or another, but they all tend to fade. The Delaney-Hixenbaugh deal, it just doesn't seem to fade. It has been here since the beginning, and it may go on for time immemorial.
Yeah, well, if it goes on, and it matures as it goes on, but it's got to come to an end at some point, right?
Well, yeah, at some point you would think. Another big moment there. Man, I gotta say, It's a good thing I'm not a betting man, because if I was, I would have bet we'd had a yellow already. Just the frequency that these guys are getting loose. I mean, it's every few laps we're seeing somebody with a big moment, and somehow they catch it. They catch the slide, they keep it going. But 98 laps of racing here. We're closing in on the end of stage 1, and knock on wood, no cautions, despite how out of control these cars have been.
Yeah, and we did say maybe the next one might be the caution, and maybe the collision, as we can see the guys behind the leaders there as well. But they're managing to keep it clean, and I think at the end of the day, as long as they can manage to do that, I'm a happy bunny. You're a happy bunny, because we're not here saying, oh no, that's so-and-so out of the race and so-and-so out of the race, and it's caused this and it's caused that. And I think when they're racing like this, yes, it's clean, yes, it's consistent. They've got a big old wide track to be, make their moves around back markers, so that shouldn't really be an issue for the guys if they come into that position. As we can see, the number 33 car there moving up the side. That's Rob Tracy moving the side for the leaders as well. So it's not Darlington. We haven't got this tight circuit. We've got this nice wide flowing circuit. So the fact that we've got to nearly at stage 1, touch wood, we get there, is kind of a compliment to the strength of field we've got, I think, and the traffic management that they're managing to hold on to.
Absolutely. I also want to point out that Jason Taylor is almost a shoe-in to get some stage points here. And hold on to the top 10 for just 5 more laps as we hit lap 101 here. And I think a lot of that comes at the hands of his strategy. He got himself some decent track position, and now that he's at a disadvantage on those older tires, he's doing a pretty good job minimizing that disadvantage and just holding on to every position that he can. He's still running 7th, which is not bad at all. That's going to be worth a few points. Now, obviously, he's not in it for the championship. He's not in the playoffs, but after you're eliminated, you can still battle for the highest position outside of the playoffs. So after the round of 16, those drivers who were eliminated can still fight for 16th in points. They can still continue and try to battle and be up as high up on the scoreboard as possible. And team points matter too. That's another thing to take into account, as we have very close bumper-to-bumper action there between teammates. But, there is a cash payout for the top 3 finishing teams in team points. Some of these guys may not be in the playoffs, but their teams are doing pretty well in team points, and they got to go out there and they got to make sure that they continue that momentum.
Yeah, there's still, the thing is though, there's still all to play for. Just because you're not in the playoffs doesn't mean that you're not going to get anything out of it. And as you say, when somebody says, right guys, for the top 3 teams you're going to get a cash prize, it gives you an incentive to try and go after that. And I think I would be surprised if anybody turned around and said, right, well, I'm out of the playoffs now, I'm not going to race, because you've still got your teammates to think of. So they're kind of just going to be in it to win it almost. And if you're not in it to win it, you can't win it. And we are coming to near the beginning of the stage, lap 105. I would also like to point out, I've got some things severely wrong here, because Jason Taylor pitted down on lap 47. I thought he was going to double that and come in on 94. He's not. He's hanging it out until the stage, at the end of the stage, where obviously when the caution comes out and they get to stop. So Taylor has kind of extended his second stop. So it is possible to go up to the 12 lap difference that we saw originally when the pit stop started.
That it is. This has been a great battle on screen. Blake Giglio fell back from the lead. Hoytsma took it from him, and now he's side by side with Bryson Hixenbaugh, who is going to try to take second in the stage. Again, this top 3 all eligible in the playoffs, still in it for the championship. These points matter big time. Behind them, they got Van de Sant just on pace with them as well. And he is going to finish right behind him. And I think Giglio manages to hold on to second place in this stage. As once 10 cars cross the line, stage caution will fly. Stage winner Lucas Hoytsma for stage 1. And I gotta say, those LMM cars look pretty fast tonight here in stage 1. Obviously finishing 1 and 2 is pretty impressive. But here's the thing, James, these are long races. And what I've noticed is that generally the cars that are fast in stage 1 aren't necessarily the cars that are walking away with a checkered flag at the end of the race. So I'm excited to see how the race gets shaken up and then who kind of comes to life later on. But I'm gonna try and locate in a moment here our stage winner, and then once he comes down pit road, and we're not going to be interrupting him, we'll bring him down for an interview. In the meantime, while the entire field comes down pit road, we're going to throw it to a quick break from our end. We're going to keep the cameras on the cars so you can see everybody getting their car serviced, see where the running order lines up, and then we'll have our interview with stage winner. All right, we are back. I'm going to go ahead and grab Lucas Hoitzma, stage winner, see if we can't have a word. Lucas Hoitzma, you got a copy?
I got you.
Well, Lucas, it was a very impressive first stage for you and your teammate Blake Giglio, finishing 1 and 2 in this stage. How you feeling?
I'm flabbergasted, I guess is a good word for it, because we came into this night thinking top 10 would be like a win. You know, we had no hope. This is probably one of my worst tracks, so to get it out here, get a stage win, especially in the playoffs, it feels really good.
Absolutely. Now, what's the plan going forward? We got 2 more stages to get through. You gonna try to just keep this momentum up, or you already thinking ahead to some strategy?
Gonna try to stay level-headed here. Can't let that get in my head. Still 200-ish laps to go, so it's, you know, anything could happen. There's a lot of fast guys out here. It's gonna be tough to hold this, but we're gonna try our best.
All right. And while we got one more pace lap, I gotta ask, what do you think is going to be the biggest challenge in the remainder of this race? Is there anything in particular that you're keeping an eye on? Maybe track temp, maybe somebody in the field that you're keeping an eye on?
The track temp is it's going to be changing here soon a lot, so that's definitely something I'm going to be keeping my eye on. But I think the biggest goal right now is just keep LMM up front 1 and 2.
All right. Well, thanks for your time, Lucas. Good luck in the rest of the race.
Thank you, sir.
Lucas Hoitzma out of the booth, and I'm getting a word from our producer. The reason that number 6 is dropping so far down the scoring pylon into 20th, he got some damage repaired, and again, he's tagged that wall a few times, so I would imagine it was probably a good call. Early on, you know, you still got 200 laps left in this race, a little bit surplus of 200 actually, and plenty of time to come down pit road, get that damage fixed up, and see if you can't make some passes under green. But a lot of cars back on the lead lap, including Damaris Hickenbottom, who took a wave around. Now, that's going to put him a little bit behind the curve in terms of tire wear and fuel if he stayed out and took a wave around opportunity. That's going to be a difficult situation, but sometimes it's better to be on the lead lap, even if you are kind of on older equipment. So we'll have to wait and see, but I believe we're going to be doubling them up this time, and we'll be back to racing.
Definitely going to be interesting. Any restart is interesting, I think, Andre, to be honest. But the Hoitzma, Giglio, Van der Zandt, Hickenbottom, Murray, I think it's going to be even more interesting as we are going to be looking at going green shortly.
I also want to point out Hutchison, who had that pit road incident alongside so many others. We'll call that the darkest day in pit road history. Everybody just sliding through their stall. He's back inside the top 10. He's going to be restarting P9, so kind of clawing his way back up front. And he seemed to have some pretty good speed in that 57 early in the race. And now that he's finally back inside this top 10, I'm going to be keeping an eye on him. But I don't know, man. It's hard to make a pick for this race. Obviously, those LMM cars up front, they look really fast so far, but I can't count out Bryson Dixonbaugh either. I mean, to go from 20th all the way up to restarting fourth now and battling for second at the stage, and very impressive run and a lot of speed in that knee-high septic machine. I just love saying knee-high septic. That's got to be the
Is
best
that your
sponsor in
thing?
the field. It's quite frankly the best sponsor. There's just, you know, it takes a bold man to go out there in a car with this title sponsor that is basically nothing but toilet humor. And, you know, Bryson did it. He does it every week almost. So, lights are out on the pace car. It's going to make that hard left turn. And it's going to be an LMM front row. What are they going to do with it? Get into that Geico restart zone. Looks like a good jump for Lucas Hoytsma. But Blake Giglio falling a little ways back there. He's under fire from Alex Van de Sant. That's another driver I got to mention. Van de Sant has passed a lot of cars tonight, and looks like he's going to add one more to the tally down low, trying to get around Giglio up into P2. It has been a phenomenal night for Van de Sant. A little bit of blinking from Giglio is going to secure the deal. Now he's got one more car in his sights, and that's going to be the leader.
Well, he's only going to be able to go forward, isn't he? And then the green was fairly, kind of almost expected the way it kind of went. Obviously, I don't think Giglio was kind of expecting Van der Zandt to be trying to make that move as quickly as he did. I thought he might have had a little bit more of an opportunity to kind of run with Hoytsma, but Van der Zandt reacted and was just like, well, I'm going to have it. I want this second place, and I'm going to try and pull everybody forward. So, see how it pans out. Can we run for the next 198 laps again without a caution? There's no reason why we can't, to be honest. I think the way these guys have been flying along nicely, I think at the end of the day, it's possible we could get to the next stage without a caution. So, you know, keep an eye out though, and because we have seen it sliders, we've seen green pit stops, Andre. So are we due a caution? Maybe. Do we want a caution? No. But it's possible.
Yeah, anything's possible, and I will say this has been a very weird race. You know, usually the playoff races are dramatic from start to finish. You've got drivers really putting it all out on the line and doing everything they can to claim every single possible point, and that results in a lot of action and a lot of chaos on track. This race is almost more like a regular season race. It seems like everybody is just doing a great job keeping a level head on their shoulders, kind of like what Lucas was talking about, just staying focused and trying to stay calm. It's been a very clean race. I'm not seeing a lot of aggression out of these guys. Now, part of that may be down to the handling of the car. We've seen what happens when you do get aggressive. That car tries to step out on you, and a lot of drivers have gotten really lucky tonight. They've gotten sideways and they've saved it, but sooner or later, that luck's going to run out. And if that car steps out on you, you're not going to save it. So, you know, maybe the challenge and the difficulty is adding to this extra sense of caution, or maybe these guys are just placing such a priority on the long run and being there at the end for the playoffs. They've kind of put themselves in this very robotic, sort of hyper-focused mindset where they're just trying to stay consistent. Yeah, maybe there's an opportunity to pass here and there. Maybe somebody makes a bobble. Maybe somebody leaves the lane open. But you run that risk versus reward like you were talking about earlier, James. You kind of calculate in your mind, is this worth the chance? These guys think, well, no, because I could wind up wrecked. Yeah, I could get another position. I could get another point, but I could be wrecked, and that could be the end of my playoffs. So a lot of precautions going on here as we do have somebody down pit road very early. I believe this is going to be an unscheduled stop.
Chad Sana, yeah, Chad was in the little bit early, I suppose, in conjunction, considering we've just had the stage. Strange. There we go. That's all I can really say about that, Andre, to be honest. I'm a bit confused.
Yeah, I mean, me too. It's definitely an unscheduled stop. I'm just trying to figure out why, because it didn't look like he had much damage, if any. And I'm wondering if maybe he stayed out on the stage caution to take the wave around so that he get back on the lead lap, and then kind of was forced to pit when he didn't get another caution. Because definitely, if he was one of those drivers that pitted all the way back in lap 50 or so, and then he stayed out at the stage break, yeah, you're not going much further than that on fuel.
No. It probably wasn't, to be honest, go much further than that on the tyres he had on. Because at the end of the day, like, tyre wear was massive, and if we can see Jason Taylor coming on lap 47 and then manage to run to 105, I think he's probably maxed them out as far as they can go. But, you know, it's all about where they're at positioning wise now. You know, Kevin Steele down in 12th, he's up 22 places. Matt White as well. So Kevin Steele doing an absolute stellar job there, just being consistent all the way through the field in that 24 car. You know, you got Matt White up 18, Matt Long up 18 as well, and then obviously Bryson Hicksaborough up in third place on 17. So there's been a lot of movers, and do you know the weirdest thing, Andre, is the movers that I just spoke about, we haven't really mentioned. It's almost like they've gone around going on about their jobs just silently, under-tracked, and they're in the positions where they're in.
Yeah, absolutely, and there has been a lot of overtaking, despite the fact that, you know, the front of the field has been kind of stagnant. You mentioned it earlier, and again, you just kind of touched on it there, but a lot of drivers have gained a lot of positions and been able to hold on to the position they've gained. There's been a lot of passing and a lot of shuffling in terms of running order, and it's interesting to see. Usually Texas doesn't lend itself to that much fluctuation in running order or that much passing, but some of these guys that started in the back, they've made up a lot of time. As Kevin Steele side by side with the number 77. That's going to be a close call, but he's able to keep it going as they're going to stay side by side now. And again, up in that gray, right where you don't want to be. What's going to be able to do with it?
He needs to drop in, and he needs to get in as soon as possible. I think I would be looking at maybe just lifting a little bit further. There's a gap there between the 51, which is Jason Baker, that he could have slotted into if he's had the opportunity. But he's got to be more decisive on his moves than that. He's either going to take it or he's not, because the number one car behind him, which is Dustin Hall, really needs to know what he's up to. But I don't think I'd be running that high line.
Yeah, you know, Kevin, he's got a bit of a saying. He asks himself all the time, WWGD, what would Gale do? I'm not sure that Gale would run the high line there, but maybe it goes back to just trying to preserve those tires. It could just be, I don't want to be on the bottom, I don't want to be scuffing these tires, and I'm going to be slower now, but maybe in that long run we're going to be a little bit quicker. Because in that first stint, back in stage 1, we did see some drivers who ran the high line see some late run success, so we'll see how it stacks up. John Delaney, of course, dropping all those positions, getting damage repaired on that car. Well, he's already up to 13th, I believe, and now trying to make another pass. He's really working his way through the field. Kevin's going to try to block him, but I mean, there's just nothing you can do. That was a huge run. I think at that point it was either move or get moved, and Kevin chose the safer of those options.
Yeah, it just depends on the damage he's doing on his tyres. Andre doesn't coming through the field as quickly as he has done since he's got the damage repaired. I think, you know, the emphasis that we put on tyres, people sometimes don't quite understand why we're talking about it. You know, they look at it and they go, well, it's just a simulator. Or they use that fateful word that everybody flies and commentators for about when we call it a game. You know, that's not good for us. But they look at it and think, well, surely it can't be that bad. Surely it can't be that bad in this simulator. But to be honest, it's about as real life as you're going to get it, really.
I would say, to go even further, I think sometimes the tire wear is more drastic on iRacing than it is even in real life. Sometimes the lap time fall off is actually more extreme than the timing and scoring that you'd see in the real race, which means that sometimes these drivers have to be even more cautious than the guys who do this for a living. And that's never a fun situation. And it is so difficult because really, you never actually know how you're doing in terms of tire preservation until you come down pit road and the team takes the tires off, and then your black box in the menu gets updated, and they can show you what percentage your tires were when they took them off. You really don't know. You know, all you can do is watch and listen for certain audio and visual feedback. There's a few different sounds that the tires will make in terms of squealing. The first sound is kind of just akin to the tire rolling on the asphalt. The second sound is a little bit more of a whine, and the third sound is a straight up squeal. But you might be thinking, okay, well, just avoid the squeal. Make sure you're not lighting the tires up, and if you can't hear the tire, then you must be saving it. But that's not true either, because sometimes if you're carrying too much speed, if you're cranking on the wheel too hard, even if the tire does not sound like it's squealing, even if it's still in that first sound where it sounds like you're just rolling on the asphalt, you might still be putting additional stress on that tire, completely unbeknownst to you. The drivers around you aren't doing it. They're doing a better job preserving, and you have no clue. So it's really just a completely muscle memory and sort of a seat of your pants feel-based thing that they got to worry about when it comes to saving these tires.
Yeah. That's the thing. There's just so much involved. Over rotation, carrying too much speed into the corner. You're trying to turn left. The car wants to go straight, and you're really trying to over rotate the wheel, and you're scuffing your tires. And maybe that's the thing, though. Maybe we are seeing that high line because people don't want to be doing that. But I don't know. It seems like at the moment with the constant green flag, I would just kind of go all out. I think I would probably Delaney it, to be honest, because, you know, he's moved up now back still in 13th place, trying to chase down Kyle Amon as they come very close together there. But I don't think I'd worry about my tyre deck. I think I'd probably want to try and get up as far as I can go.
Yeah, especially with how important track position has been tonight. Oh boy.
Oh, Kyle Amon there. That could have been a little bit more dangerous. Sorry, Andre, carry on. I got a little bit excited for a minute.
Oh, no, you're good. You're good.
Yourself down a bit.
I was caught off guard by that, too. Man, usually when you get a shove like that... Oh, big slide. Hold on to her.
Amon seems all over the place at the moment. He's gone outside in, and then back out again. And that car is not sitting pretty at the moment. You know, he pitted on lap 107. He's only run 20... Oh, quick maths, James. 33 take away 7. He's only run 27 laps. And that car is not looking comfortable. I've got to be honest, Carl Lamont, the number 5 car, who we're looking directly back at, not looking too comfortable. I've got to be honest, for a car that's only 27 laps old.
Well, and you know, one thing to keep in mind there is that when Delaney got into the back of Hammond and got him sideways, that was skating the rear tires of that number 5, and that was heating them up. And when the tires get heated up like that, generally you've got to back up and regroup for about a lap or two. Back your corners up, take it easy on the throttle, take it easy on the steering, and get those tires back down to the optimal temp. Otherwise, the car is going to handle really poorly while they're still hot. So you got to really be mindful of those temps. And I think what might have happened there was, you know, Kyle had a lot of pressure from John. He got him sideways, heated up those tires, but then he had Nolan Hodgson in front of him who got really sideways, sliding up the track. And that may have been enough to kind of distract Kyle Amon, and that's kind of why he was running different lines and really struggling to hold on to that car. Now, things have kind of calmed down. You can see he's got the 77 behind him. He's kind of hitting his marks, running that middle groove a lot more consistently. Doesn't look quite as out of control, but still sideways again there. So,
yeah. That's kind of the commentator's curse the other way, Andre, isn't it? You know what I mean?
That might be.
You said how well he was doing and how he come back into line and, you know, everything else, then he goes and hits the wall. He's like, well, you're lying. Bang, there's a wall. But I don't know, but, you know, whatever was going on in that car with Amon, he's got to kind of settle it down now. We jumped up front with Robert Anderson, who's currently holding 5th place, in front of Matt Long and behind Alex Murray. You know, from our point of view, currently on the racetrack, even though they're still driving, there's not a lot happening. They're kind of banking lines, aren't they? They're following each other. Everybody's being conservative. You know, but then as it pans out with pit stops later on,
big impact.
Was that? I can't see, it's in front of Robert Anderson. It might be Alex Murray on the 28 car. Yeah, it might be Alex Murray there hitting the wall. But do you see what I mean, Andre? There's kind of not a lot happening. Because they're all being so sort of good, I suppose.
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, a very strange playoff race, very orderly and very courteous. And what's really standing out to me, and I know I keep saying this, but it really does shock me. I can't believe that one of these guys that's gotten sideways lap after lap has not finally just lost it and spun out. I mean, everybody has been able to save it, which is really impressive. We do have one thing kind of going on the track, though. Here's a battle for, I believe, third place. That's Alex Murray trying to take it away from Blake Giglio. Now, Murray has been really fast in the last few races, and really towards the end of this season, he started to catch on fire, and he's been doing really well. Now, I can't say he's made too many friends along the way. I know I've heard through the grapevine that he may have made a few enemies in some of these races recently, but luckily, the drivers who I know were kind of upset with him, well, they're not here tonight, so he doesn't have to worry about that. He can just focus on running his race, going as fast as humanly possible, and trying to pick up points. Again, he's still in the playoffs, so any position he can get, any stage point he can get, that is huge, that is paramount, and he's going to really give it his all to get around Blake. Again, it's so difficult to pass here. It's very much a one-line track, and you got to wait for a mistake, it seems. And luckily for Alex Murray, though, I don't think you got to wait long for the driver in front of you to make a mistake, because it seems like the bobbles have been abound tonight.
Yeah, but it is Giglio in front of Alex. So, Giglio's led the race. It's second in stage. So, if you're going to wait, obviously, don't hold your breath about it, because obviously Giglio's been consistent. But we're down with Mr. Jason Baker in that 51 car currently. Brandon Pierce behind him, and then Mark Paget behind. I hope I'm saying that surname right. Behind him as well. But this is, if we looked through, if people could see what we're looking at regarding timing software, everybody bar 11th and 12th are below almost half a second of each other. So the racing is close, but it's just clean. And I think, this is kind of an oval dream at the moment for most people to drive ovals, the fact that it has been so clean for 142 laps.
Yeah, it depends on the outlook of the driver. Some drivers, if you're somebody who's more consistency based and you just want to really get to the end of the race as quickly as possible, yeah, you're loving this, you're eating this up. But some of these drivers, if you're maybe in a rough point situation, if you're a driver that needs to make up some points and make up some time, and you've got this very orderly single file racing where passing is making itself a little bit difficult, it can get kind of frustrating over the course of the race, and you find yourself just kind of wishing that there was some more action, maybe some chaos for you to take advantage of and get around. It really boils down to what kind of driver you are and what you need out of the race. But for a lot of these guys, a consistent race is what they're going to be after. So you're exactly right, James. For a lot of these guys, clicking off laps, no harm in that.
No, definitely not. And can you really afford to? Can Delaney, can Hicksenbrook, can Hoitzman, can Long, can Giglio, can Hutchinson afford to do anything stupid? You've got Delaney trying to come through the field. He's gone down now. He's in 12th currently at the moment, behind Matt Dicciani. But they can't afford to do anything silly. And as much as, I'm sure me and you would love to see carnage, but I just don't think we're going to. I think there's an opportunity that, as we see the 24 car of steel get very close to Dalton Mulberry there, I don't think there's a need for it to get silly. These guys need the points. The people within the playoffs that need the points. Alex Murray's still there. So they all need points, and I think we're not going to see anything stupid, Andre. I think that's the thing. And to be honest, this is heaven to me. I'd be quite happy sitting in this one, driving around constantly without trying to avoid people spinning round in front of me and dodgy rejoins coming out of the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, it is almost akin to a road race. Road racing, you tend not to have a lot of incidents, and the incidents that do happen are generally pretty far away from you and not too much of a concern. And really, in road racing, you're racing the track. You're racing the lap times and trying to be the most consistent driver out there who's just getting the most out of their car and the most out of the track. And, chaos, it can happen in road racing. It does happen in road racing. But generally, it's a very methodical style of racing. And that's exactly what we're seeing here. Not too many incidents. The drivers are kind of just racing the track at this point. They're not really racing each other, just racing the track, hitting their marks, and really just getting in a bit of a zone here, which is, like you said, kind of uncharacteristic for some oval racing. But, yeah, pleasant surprise.
No, they've just got to realise, though, that, they've got to finish. You can't score points if you're in the wall. And this late on in the season, they can't afford to go in the wall. So, I think consistency is the key, and we've got to lap 150. We are, I think, going to start seeing some maybe earlier pit stops coming along, because obviously they've consistently been driving the same line over and over and over and over and over again, and they've been in just one consistent line all the way through the field. But at the end of the day, Andre, if they don't finish, they don't get the points, and they can't do that. They can't finish without being sensible.
Absolutely. And you pointed out we're getting to lap 150. That also means we're getting pretty close to some pit stops, I believe. I think within the next 10 laps or so, we're going to see some drivers working their way down. And from what I gather, watching that first green flag sequence back in stage 1, it seemed like the drivers who stayed out a little bit longer tended to prevail. Now, you don't want to stay out too long. We saw Damaris Hickenbottom and a few others stay out just a little bit too long. But the drivers who didn't quite pull an undercut, but also didn't quite do an overcut, those were the ones that prevailed, the very middle of the road strategy. And I think we're going to see a lot more of that now that those guys know that's what works. If you're somebody like the number 12, Jason Taylor, who was just trying to get some points and some track position, you can take the undercut, and he's shown that you can make it work, but it's definitely not the safest strategy. So I'm curious to see what these guys do. You do see the strategies tend to change and adapt throughout the races. These guys learn what works and what doesn't. But I do want to point out, as we've been kind of following along with some random battles and things going on throughout the field, we haven't really checked on the front of the field too much, but Bryson Ixenbaugh has been lingering about 0.3 of a second back from Hoytsman, and Alex Murray has been lingering about 0.3 of a second back from Hickenbottom. They're not really closing in on one another. They're not really that racy at the moment. You can see the lap time differentials right there. Alex Murray, I think, of this top 3 is definitely the fastest, and he is closing in on that 63. But if you're Bryson or if you're Alex Murray and you're not sure you're going to be able to get to the leader under speed, you got to try to watch what that leader does and what their strategy is. If you feel like they're going to stay out and they're really going to overextend this stint, maybe try to pull a Jason Taylor just to come out in front of them, get that clean air.
Yeah. The option is you either look at trying to take the undercut, or you look at running the same as the guy in front and you just cover him off, which is the famous F1 strategy that we see, where the leader goes in and people cover him off, or they go around and try and run something different. I do want to touch on something that you said earlier that in my head I did start laughing. Was we were talking about the pit stops earlier on, and you said the middle of the road ones was benefited. Now what I'm hoping for this time is we get everybody back into their pit boxes correctly, and we don't see the overruns that we saw last time. Because although that we were, having a chuckle up here in the booth, I was a little bit worried that they'd run a little bit too long on the tyres. So let's hope that we can get cleaner pits this time, Andre. That would be a bargain.
Yeah, but it would be pretty amusing if they all missed it again.
Oh, no, don't say that, because can you imagine twice in a row?
Yeah, I don't see that happening again. Honestly, I gotta say, I think that pit sequence was a 1 in a million. I don't think I have ever seen that many cars miss their stall in a single stint. I've been commentating this league for going on 2.5 years. Never saw that before.
All right, so it's all on you. If when we come into the net pit sequence, which we are expecting very shortly, guys, as well, we think probably within the next 10 laps we are still expecting to see cars coming in. If we continue to see people missing pit stops, again, we'll put it on you on that one.
Yeah, I'll take the blame for it. That'll definitely be commentator's curse. Because, like I said,
I think that's the thing, mate. I've never seen it before either. To be honest, in anything any commentary I've done.
Yeah, I mean, I think the most I've ever seen in one sequence was about 3 cars. But, I mean, right there we had
We
to
were up
be 8
at
or 9
6.
cars.
Yeah, at least above 6, because that's where we got. I think we just kind of. I think we chuckled and missed a couple. I'm sure we did.
Yeah.
You know, as wonderful as Carlos is in the background pressing buttons, he can't flip from driver to driver quite as quick. And I think we probably missed some as well. But look, at the end of the day, you know, we're human. You know, they're human. We all make mistakes. So maybe it was a run of bad luck, or maybe they got distracted because they were trying to adjust things. I don't know. But look, you know, so far so good. We've got to 158. However, there is a major defence going on currently at the moment as well. Is that Matt Dicciani, isn't it, in front, and he's got Wayne Grass behind him. Dicciani, they're doing some major defensive work, but it seems like now the outside line is almost coming in a little bit here, Andre. Would you agree? They kind of been a little bit more consistent around the outside, as we can see there with Delaney running the outside line past Grass. So maybe the outside line's coming in.
Oh boy!
Grab hold of her.
Wow, he made it work. I don't know how he made that work. I think he might have scraped the wall, but he still made the pass.
Yeah, Matt White there did a stellar job just holding it in the right direction, to be honest, because that could have been a lot more dangerous.
Yeah, that was a good save on his end. I mean, he's got John Delaney to his outside trying to make a move. He's got Wayne Grassy right around him, and then he gets a little bit sideways, and he's able to gather it up even though he was under a lot of pressure. So very impressive there. Up to lap 160 now, so we are 55 laps into the stint. Again, this is about when we saw pit road getting busy in the first stage, but things seem to be a little bit slower paced in terms of pitting this stage, and I gotta wonder if maybe that's intentional by the field. Maybe they learned from the first stint. I do want to point out the track is a lot cooler now than it was before. Race started and it was 102 degrees. Right now we're looking at 94 degrees, which means the tires are going to be a little bit easier to preserve. So some of these guys are going to be able to stay out a little bit longer, and that may be why we're seeing what we're seeing. But Dustin Hall does break the ice. He's going to be the first one down pit road, other than Chad Sander earlier in the race in stage 2. So now we're going to see, does anybody follow in Dustin Hall's footsteps, or do they stay out a little bit longer? Van de Sant starting to slowly close in on Alex Murray. Some good long run speed in that 96. We saw something very similar out of him there in stage 1. But I'm surprised by the defense that Bryson's put on here. I know Bryson does like to be the car in front. Some drivers like to be the tailing car. They like to, you know, they're a little bit faster when they're following somebody. And sometimes drivers are faster when they got a car behind them, pressuring them. And Bryson has told me in the past, I don't like to be the follower. I like to be out front. And it seems to be working out pretty well for him here, as he has held off a hard-charging Alex Murray thus far for second place. But I don't know, the battle's going to get more interesting here, James, because I think if they stay out much longer, that 96 is going to be there to contend with them.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the weirdest thing as well is that they've got to be looking at the slightly, I suppose in a way, Andre, we've done races and literally, you know, we've had a caution and we had 82 laps where we didn't have nothing, and then we had they come in quick succession. But the thought of the fact that they're running long every single stint is they're not getting that caution break, so they're not having to adjust on the fly. So, you know, the chances of them kind of planning for a non-cautioned race is no. Is he still going at the top? That was Hutchinson coming in. Was that Kevin Steele and Carl Ammer going past them? Because they looked like they were still going as they went across the line. That couldn't have been any closer, even if they wanted to. But yeah, they need to be looking at now the constant being on target for tyres and fuel, because that's pretty much where they all are.
Absolutely. Now, I do want to point out that the 57, as far as I can tell, when he came down pit road, I'm looking at the chat, and I was also kind of listening in. I don't think he notified anybody that he was coming down pit road, and that was a very late entry. That could have been a whole lot worse for those drivers around him. I think you're right. I think that was Kevin Steele that had to make a bit of an evasive maneuver. So definitely got to be careful of that. You know, obviously nobody wants to show their hand too early. You don't want to tell everybody, yeah, I'm going to pit in the next 2 laps, because then they're just going to mold their strategy around what you're doing. But at the same time, you do have to give some forewarning. You definitely don't want to just slam the brakes and dive down to pit road, because then you wind up with situations like that.
Yeah, that was a little bit close for me. I've just had a look in chat. I couldn't see anything to say that he was coming in either. So, you know, they've got to make it cleaner than that, because that could have been, you know, the big one that we haven't had. We see a lot of cars in the pits currently as well. Kevin Steele, Princeton, McRae, Anderson, Hicksenborough's in as well. The first of the main front runners is in the pits. So there's a lot coming in at the moment. You know, to be fair, Andre, you were spot on. You know, 10 laps ago, you said it would be 10 laps, and it was 10 laps. So, you know, fair play to you. If you can just give me next week's lottery numbers, and I'll be happy.
Well, you know, generally I'm wrong 99% of the time, so I'm just going to take this one win and tell you that I'm probably not going to be getting any winning lottery numbers anytime soon.
Well, stick it in your pocket, mate. Save it for later. You know what I mean? Enjoy the fact that you got it correct, because that's what I do at the end of the day, because as you say, 99% of the time we're probably going to get it wrong. So the one time we get it right, I normally bank it and save it for another time. So there we go.
So on track right now, Lucas Hoytsma still leading the way. Alex Murray moves up to second with everybody coming down pit road. Blake Giglio third. Dicciani has worked his way all the way up to fourth. Jason Taylor in fifth. Derek Heitman there is in sixth. Kyle Amon, through all the stuff he's been through, he's there in seventh by virtue of this pit sequence. You can see on the timing and scoring, a lot of drivers down pit road right now. Just a few stragglers, a few holdouts really trying this long run strategy. And you know, I'm not going to make the call. I'm not going to say staying out this long is good or bad. I'm just going to say I'm curious to see how it plays out, because I'm not sure that's the strategy I would pull. We do have a replay of something that happened. That's Brandon Pierce, the number 38. And, oh, this was the pit road incident with the 57. Wow, missed him by inches. I don't think he could have put a piece of paper between those two cars. That was absurd.
Yeah, that was probably a little bit more of what we call a squeaky bum brown punt moment, I think, for them as well, because that was just a little bit closer than they would have liked, I would have thought as well. So maybe they might be on the radio saying, you know, hey dude, let us know, because you didn't kind of tell anyone. And the last thing they all want to be doing is wrecking. But hey, Hoytsman's in, Taylor's in, Dicciani's in, Heitman's in, Tracy's in, and Steele's in. So everybody's around about that window. That Andre, I'd like to point out, chat as well, if you are still here, don't forget, you know, to subscribe, like, and turn on the bells for notifications, and have a chat with us as well. I promise you, we don't bite. And ask Andre for next week's live. But no.
Yellow flag on the speedway.
That was from Rob Tracy.
Gonna have to wait and see exactly what happens here, but there's a lot of cars one lap down that are gonna have to take a wave around now. I think Bryson may have just unlapped himself before this happened, but he's down on pit road. He's trying to exit the pits and then just touches two tires to the actual racing surface, and that elevation change from the flat banking of the apron to the raised banking of the track, that got him sideways, and then from there just having a bit of a hard time getting it going. We're going to take another look at it. Keep your eye on his right side tires right there. He's going to just barely clip the racing surface, and that's all she wrote. Not a lot of room for error when that wall is just a foot or so away. And then that right there is what actually caused the caution. He rolled up into the racing surface as other cars were going by. So that is what the game deemed as a caution. Unfortunate for him, and unfortunate for a lot of these drivers that are going to have to take a wave around. Bryson, I should point out, he was 32 seconds behind the leader when this caution came out, which essentially means he missed being trapped a lap down by about 5 feet.
Yeah, that's a shame. But it's the first caution. I'm just hoping that this is the first and only, because we managed pretty much 175 laps. You know, we nearly got through like over halfway without a caution, and I'm just hoping we can continue because these guys have done well. You know, I think as much as we'd love to have action all over the place and cautions but they have done well, haven't they? And to keep it without any issues. So fair play to them. Stellar job from all of them. I've got to be honest. You know, take a bow when you all get out. Give yourselves a pat on the back because you've been amazing. It's just a shame for us, really. But you know, hey, first one, 175 laps in, can't complain.
I should point out that was perfectly timed for Damaris Hickenbottom, who was staying out pretty much in the sole hopes of getting a yellow flag, which he just so happened to get. So he's going to be restarting in 4th, and he's going to be on fresh tires, full tank of gas. I mean, you couldn't ask for much more. This is really going his way right now. While we get things racked and stacked, we're going to try and get them double wide and get ready to go. We're going to throw it to a quick break, and we'll be back to drop the green.
All right, we apologize for the issues. We are having some, we're having an issue here on Discord, but green flag is back out as Giglio and Hixabot has been able to get off once again to a massive lead compared to Heckenbottom Murray. And remember, a majority of the field had to take a wave around, so pretty much all of them had to go and what's the word? Kind of stay out, even though their tires are not really as old as you know you would expect. But still, that being said, a lot of them are just going to be hanging on, hoping for another quick caution. But for the majority of the field so far, the caution came out at a very inopportune moment. Well, for some of the drivers, including the 0-0 of Hickenbottom, was able to take advantage and be able to put himself back up in a high position. But I do believe we have Andre and James back up on field. You guys get a copy?
Hitting under the yellow flag, so they really benefited it just by stretching this thing a little bit longer.
Yeah, he really played out in their favor big time. I mean, if you're DeMaris and that red row, I don't think you could have asked for a more well-timed caution. If you got him up front, got him on equal footing, and you know, we talked about him earlier when he was lapped down. I said, don't quite count him out yet. And I don't know what happened, but the race actually worked out for him here. So we do have a bit of a battle for the lead as Bryson tries to keep his nose down low on Blake Iglio. Wasn't quite able to get close enough to establish himself down deep and back out of it. But now he's going to try to stay in line and regroup. A lot of pressure from Alex Murray. That's caution number 2.
Oh.
Speedway.
Oh, there's a lot involved with this one.
So I don't have a Discord stream for Carlos, so if we do show a replay, I'm not going to be able to see that.
One moment, please.
A lot of cars involved.
There was a lot of cars involved in that one.
Brandon
Pierce, yeah.
Asa Renze, Mark
Here we
Padgett.
go. Oh, that was started with a 48.
Huge hit for Dustin Hall, and then man, oh man,
Yeah.
what a
Just a
spin for
collection.
Pierce.
After that, car number 48 was Matt White. Oh no, it was Dustin Hall got out of shape, went into Matt White, and unfortunately that was it. It was all going horribly wrong after that for everybody behind. Poor Dustin Hall.
Yeah, you know, we said that eventually one of these drivers' luck was going to run out.
Oh, he got help.
Oh, he got help. That wasn't getting loose. The 48 just kind of got into the left rear, and that's not somewhere you want to be hit and just piling in. Kyle Ammon also involved. I didn't see that the first time around. Just a ton of damage to a lot of these cars. Going on board with Ammon here. Gonna see all of this breaking out in front of him. And I mean, tries to part the Red Sea, but oh man, he nudges Dustin out of the way, almost gets away with it, and then unfortunately gets tagged from behind, and that's going to spin him around. Now on board with number 33, Rob Tracy. Now he was actually the first caution we had there, and just tagged in that one, so not a good night so far for Rob Tracy. Well, after the second caution for cause and the third caution total, we're going to let these guys do what they're going to do on pit road, get the cars sorted out. We're going to throw it to a quick break. We'll join you for a restart, but we're going to have a bit of a shootout at the end of stage 2. We're getting pretty close to that stage end, which means things are going to get pretty exciting. We'll see you at the drop the green. And we are back from the quick break there. Rolling our way down the back straightaway, lights right on the pace car. We're going to be back to racing pretty quick here. Blake Giglio, Bryson Nixon-Baugh, row 1. Damaris Hickenbottom holding on to that podium position. He's going to be, actually 4th. I apologize. So he'll be outside row 2. And Alex Murray, who, again, had a lot of speed tonight, he's going to be inside row 2. Then you got Alex Van de Sant and Ralph Hutchison behind them. Some drivers who have been slowly working their way up the grid. Kind of a powerhouse, a very stacked top 5, I would say. Yes, Alex Murray down there trying to warm up those tires, get some heat in them before they drop the green. And the pace car is going to make that left-hand turn right down pit road. Hopefully the pace car doesn't miss his pit stall. I don't even know if that's a possible thing, but we'll see what they can do. Here we go. Geico restart zone is through, and it looks like our leader is going to get a massive jump. Bryson Nixon-Baugh staying side by side with Alex Murray. Now, here's where things are going to be tough for Bryson. He's going to be hung out to dry here. He's got a lot of cars down low. They're going to be a lot faster down there. He's got to try to find a place to slot in, and he does. Damaris, I think, was being a little bit nice there, James. I think Damaris could have said, nope, you're not slotting in, but he let off the throttle.
Yeah, I would have kind of looked for my own place after that. If Damaris didn't want to, let him in, he probably, to be honest, he probably really didn't have much of a choice, because the gap was there for Bryson to take, and Bryson took it quite comfortably. But I think he could have hung him out for a long while there, and that would have been a terrain of cars going past him. So fair play for trying to squeeze it back in and getting it back in when he did. Unfortunately, though, there are some people out on the outside who are still losing places, so we'll keep an eye on how they are getting on. I believe we've got Ralph Hutchinson, who's actually gone past Wayne Grass on the outside. So we did talk about it earlier, though, Andre, when we said the outside line might come in later on in the race. We're 188 in now. Could it be working?
You definitely could, and if you look at turns 1 and 2, there's a lot of shade in the entrance of the corner, which is cooling that part of the track down even more, which is going to make the top a little bit more viable, because you can be able to carry a little bit more speed. So it's definitely changing, and I still wouldn't say the high line is where you want to be necessarily, but it is becoming more viable slowly. And I think if you've got a good enough car, and if you get a good enough run, you could potentially make some magic happen up there. You just got to make sure that the stars sort of align in your favor.
Yeah, we've got Kevin Steele, who's currently in the pits and has been in there for about 17 minutes. He's in YouTube. Hi, Cam. Hi, Sean. Hi, James. Hi, Andre. Kevin, be nice. Stay nice. We're here as well. But anyway, I've just wound up Kevin Steele, who's going to be, unhappy. But the race, hopefully we'll get back to that green flag racing. We're 20 laps away from stage 2. The green flag racing was good. We were going along nicely. A couple of cautions in the middle. Delaney is still trying to make his way back through the field. Still in 10th. Was in 13th. Gone back up 3 places. Oh no! There's contact.
Oh boy.
Oh boy. Who's behind him? 2 back. So we've got Delaney. I think that was Anderson and Dicciani there. Were door banging each other quite happily. Hopefully we'll get back to that nice flowing green flag racing we had earlier on. Be good.
Yeah, we'll see if we can get back in a rhythm. It is difficult. You have these restarts, and you get so used to being in a rhythm, and everybody's kind of separated, and then all of a sudden, well, you're boxed in. You've got cars in front, you've got cars behind, you've got cars to your outside, cars to your inside, and on top of that, you probably just pitted for this restart, so you've got cold tires that are going to be a little bit ill handling, and sometimes mistakes will lead to more mistakes, and it all just sort of snowballs. So it didn't necessarily surprise me to see a second caution immediately following the first caution for cause. But now that we've made a few laps under green, I think we're good to get some racing into the end of the stage. The tires are up to temp, that they're pretty solid in terms of grip. I think at this point the cars are coming to these drivers, and we're starting to get a little bit more separated. Now we got a lot of pack racing going on. You can see Wayne Grassy battling with John Delaney there, trying to move down to the low line. They're not super far apart, but they're at the point now where they got a little bit of breathing room, and I think they're going to be able to sort this out. But you never know. Things are getting a little bit hectic back there. You can see some too wide Ralph Hutchison getting overtaken there, and he's going to have to slot in. So You know, they're sorting things out, but some of these drivers are still really going at it.
Yeah, your optimism is overwhelming, Andre. You know, I've got to be honest, because I think they went for so long, you know, and then we got two so quick, and the later it goes and the more I'm looking at the cars, the more I can just see another big one happening, because there's people hung up on the outside. There's a few of them are sliding a little bit as well, and they're getting very close together, and you know, and I just don't want to see another one. You see it there with Marty and Anderson. They're running side by side and being brave as they've gone on, and I don't know. I think we may see one. If we don't get one before the stage end, I think we probably get one not long after.
Yeah, things are definitely getting interesting.
Yeah,
a lot of too wide racing.
It's weird how it's gone on, isn't it? Because the longer it's gone on, the braver they kind of almost become. Unless the people within the playoff situation are now sitting there thinking, oh, I've got to move forward as quickly as possible. So they're kind of, you know, driving a little bit more recklessly, I would say, braver. Not sure which one.
Oh boy, we got some 3 wide action back here for just a moment before they went down to 2 wide. Up front, here's the battle for the lead. Blake Giglio not really able to outrun Murray, who just threw a nice little slide job on Bryson Ixenbaugh. See if Bryson can pull a little crossover. He actually got back down to the bottom. That is going to be the preferred line. And I think that 63 may be able to get clear. Yes, he can. Back up into P2. So that's really interesting. Alex Murray made the pass. He was cleared. But then immediately, Bryson was able to use a little bit of extra momentum from running just a little bit higher in the corner, and he immediately got back down to the bottom and took that position back. We haven't seen very many crossovers this race, but I think you're right, James, when you point out that the high line is becoming more viable. Because before, I mean, if that had happened on lap, I don't know, 15, I don't think Bryson would have got that position back. I think he would have been overtaken, and that would have been all she wrote.
Yeah, it's weird how the track kind of comes into the drivers. You know, as you said, at the beginning, you know, we had that one consistent driver. I think it was Hutchinson on the outside, was dropping down the order faster than me throwing a stone out of an apartment block. And, you know, it didn't work. But the more drivers have done it, the more it's kind of come into its own, you know. And I think that's the thing. They are now being able to make that move. But what they're relying on is the person on the inside giving them the space to make that outside run. Otherwise, it's going to put him in the wall. So, yeah, you're relying big style on the person who you're beside to give you that space on the outside.
Definitely. I mean, trust is a big part of it, too. I mean, you just have to really think about who you're racing and where they are, and be very aware of your surroundings. Now, all this battling between these guys back here, Matt Long, Alex Murray, John Delaney, this is allowing our top 2 to sort of break away. Bryson Ixenbaugh is starting to gain some ground on our leader. Now, Blake Giglio, we haven't really, I mean, he's led a lot, and so we've had him on camera a lot. We haven't necessarily talked about his strategy or his strengths and weaknesses a whole lot. So I just want to point out what I've seen out of Blake is he definitely has a great short run car. I think in terms of 10, 15, or even 20 lap stints, he may be the car to beat. But then we get into these longer runs. Obviously, we've only been green for a few laps here, but it has been a while since they pitted. All the drivers' tires are starting to age pretty considerably. And it's at this point where the tires are aged that he starts to fall off. He does not have that long run speed. You can see there's the lap time differentials. Bryson Ixenbaugh continually just pulling him lap after lap as he moves down to the bottom. I don't think he's going to be able to completely overtake in this corner, but he set himself up nicely for the next. That is, if the draft help does not get Blake clear, which it almost has, Blake's going to be able to cut down in front, and that is lucky for Blake. He had 2 very fast cars pushing him down that straightaway. If it had not been for that, Bryson may be in the lead right now, so we're starting to see some aero really play into effect here. Here comes Matt Long down to the bottom. See if he can do what Bryson couldn't. Through 1 and 2, an absurd amount of speed he carries in. And the run is going to carry through the corner. It does not stall. He's got his teammate behind him, John Delaney, pushing him to the lead. And now John's going to try to follow into second place as Bryson tries to maybe throw a little lasso on that 6 car's tow hitch and try to follow him through past the number 16, but he's not quite able to. Bryson down to 4th, and a new race leader, Matt Long.
Yeah, that was quite an interesting patch of racing, really, because Blake Giglio went from 1st to 3rd. Jonathan Delaney has come all the way back through the field, and Matt Long's up 22 places. So, you know, good old Matt Long has really sort of put the pitch in tonight. He's done a good old stint and moved all the way up into 1st place. Question is, can he stay there? Well, it's a possibility, you know, but you have got some top hitters up front there with you, Jonathan Delaney, Blake Giglio, and Bryson Hicksonborough, and Alex Murray, Alex van der Zan. So, yeah, he's got some big boys behind him, as Matt Long, and hopefully he'll do well. I'm sure he will anyway, but he has got some big people, big hitters behind him.
Absolutely. Now, the number 6 is in an interesting situation because, you know, he does have so many points built up from the regular season. He won so many races that gave him bonus points going into these playoffs that even though he hasn't quite been performing to the level that he was in the regular season, it doesn't matter. He had a huge gap to fall back on in terms of points, but a win right here is going to lock him into the next round, and then he doesn't have to worry about any of the tracks coming up on the schedule, doesn't have to worry about anything happening, and so everybody, even if they're comfortable in points, wants to lock themselves in. But Matt Long, he doesn't have that comfort that John has, right? He's not in a point situation where he can say, it doesn't really matter if I win this race. He is 6 points above the cut line. He's currently 5th, but 6th place is a whopping 6 positions. That means if he has a bad race and Alex Murray has a good race going into next week, just for example, he could be knocked out at any time. So he's got to win this race if he wants to really put himself at ease and just lock himself into the round of 8, not worry about this round, and then he can just kind of worry about getting stage points, rack up some comfort zone, and see what he can do with it. So it's interesting because you got one teammate that doesn't really matter where he finishes tonight, and then you got one teammate where it is paramount that he win this race. So the question is, how are they going to race each other?
They're not. And I'm going to sit back and say that confidently at the moment, because at the moment Delaney is not racing Matt Long, but they are opening up nearly a 1.17 gap. So they're not racing each other, and I think they're probably sat, if anything, they're probably hopefully sat in the same chat room and having a good old chinwag about what they're doing, and they're in the same chat anyway. They're putting time on the people behind as well. It's going up between 1.15, 1.2. So if they were sensible, they wouldn't race. They would just carry on trying to open the gap up. That's my philosophy.
I agree. I think sometimes you have to be smart about things. And I think the smartest thing for these guys to do, just for the team and for both individual drivers, is let's not battle. Let's not do what these guys are doing. Don't do that. Do not do what Van de Zandt did. Try to get single file, race clean with each other, use the draft to kind of break away from the rest of the pack. And then, hey, once we get 3-4 seconds in front of the next car behind us, maybe then we can battle it out. Maybe then we can try and sort it out. But in the meantime, we're just going to try and keep it clean. And that's working out for him. You're exactly right. As Matt Long does take the stage win, John Delaney P2.
Oh.
Blake Giglio is going to be 3rd in the stage. And Bryson Hicksonborough P4.
Sorry, I did the same. I've just got all mixed up. Oh, no, because I forgot we're at the stage win. Sorry, Andre. You carry on. I'll just sit here. Don't you worry about me.
No, you're all right. You're all right. But yeah, Bryson bringing it home 4th in the stage. Alex Murray, Alex van der Zandt, Anderson in the number 11. He's going to bring it home P7. Dicciani in 8th. Lucas Hoitzma P9. And Jason Taylor is going to bring it home there in 10th stage. So quite an exciting end. I almost forgot about it too, honestly.
Yeah, no, I blame Carlos because he was in my ear. He just went, caution! I was like, oh my God, there's another one. It was just... There's murder on the racetrack.
There is blood everywhere.
Yeah, it was all going a bit wrong here. This car's upside down and all that. Oh, I'm blaming Carlos anyway. Carlos anyway, he scared me into going, oh! And before I know it was the end of the stage. Never mind. Oh, dear. Oh.
That's what I always do. I just blame Carlos anyhow. We're going to let these guys go down pit road. We'll throw it to a short break. When these guys are making their way out of pit road, we'll bring in our stage winner, Matt Long, from Italy. And we are back from the quick break there. We're going to bring in Matt Long, see what he has to say about the stage win and how he's feeling in that 97 machine. Matt Long, you got a copy?
Hey, can you hear me?
Yep, we got you. A very impressive stage 2, Matt. You were flying at the end of that thing. You had some help from behind. John Delaney kind of shoving you through the field, and you guys were able to really break away from everybody else, and you got yourself a stage win. How you feeling?
Pretty good. We had tires there, so that definitely helped us. I've been changing everything on this car all day. I don't think long run I'm still a little bit too tight, but we'll see what we got now in stage 3.
Now, I got to ask, we're coming down to the end of this race, final stage. What is going to be the biggest challenge in the remainder of this race for you?
I think it's going to be the long runs. I feel like this is going to go like 60 laps, and I think I'm a little too tight in the long run, so we'll see.
All right, well, we'll see how it plays out. You've had a lot of speed all night long, so we're going to keep an eye on you, and good luck in the rest of the race, man.
All right, thanks, y'all.
Believe we are back.
We are indeed back. I may have messed up. So I think I click and dragged Carlos into the LDR chat instead of Matt Long.
That was a nice experience for him, wasn't it?
My bad.
Yeah, you got Jonathan Delaney going, "Hi mate, you're back," and there's Carlos going, "No, I'm not back, but there's a caution."
Yes, Carlos, there's a caution.
There's a caution, Jonathan. There's a caution.
And John's just like, I know there's a caution. We've been pacing for 3 laps.
Oh yeah, sorry, mate. Wrong chat room, but I exit right for Carlos. Oh dear, never mind. Well, no, Matt seems optimistic. You know, he's a bit hung up on the fact of whether or not he's too tight for the long. I probably would have hoped he might have worked that out by now, because we did go quite far into the first stint before we actually really sort of kind of ended up with a caution anyway. So I thought he might have worked that one out by now. That he was a bit, but he seems to be doing all right. He took a stage win. Happy days.
Absolutely, and I find it interesting that he said the long run was going to be Matt Long's biggest struggle here, because, you know, it's so uncharacteristic of that 97 team to not bring a long run car to a track. Week in and week out, that has been his strong suit, and now we come to a track where it really, really matters, and he's struggling. It's interesting to see, but as a bit of a silver lining, he does have his teammate starting right alongside him. Jonathan Delaney won the race off pit road, so he's going to be our control car. But, you know, these two cars, the LDR machines, they're going to be in control of the field. And if your car is not handling the best, it doesn't hurt to have a teammate right alongside you kind of coming up to bat for you. So we'll see how it plays out. Bryson Nixonbaugh, you got Blake Giglio behind them as well. Very fast cars. And Blake, I should point out, as we said before, very good long run speed. or short run speed, I should say, out of that 16. He's going to be good at the start of this stage. We're going to see what he can do, if he can maybe get up to the lead and try to hold on to it early, or if the LDR cars play some great defense. There goes the pace car, and we are headed directly into the Geico restart zone, as Jonathan Delaney is going to take him all the way through the restart zone. He got a bit of a late jump there, but it is going to work out for him. And look at this, little bit of wheel spin out of Matt Long. He's already battling for position. We're not even at turn 1. Bryson's going to get down to the inside, maybe claim second place for himself, as Blake Giglio tries to slot down into the bottom. He dropped a few positions there. So not the only car. Ooh, boy. Oh, man. I don't know if Bryson was clear when he slid up, but he made himself clear.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure. Matt Long did not expect Jonathan Delaney to go. I got it funny because he got hung up like unbelievable, because Blake Giglio didn't have anywhere to go either, because unfortunately for him, Matt Long hadn't gone anywhere, so he couldn't go anywhere either. However, Matt Long is running this outside line like an absolute champ, I've got to be honest, and I'd be looking at trying to slot back in though at the moment, because you leave yourself up there too much, you're going to end up getting jumping down the order. But as we said, the outside line is coming into its own, Andre, so whether or not he can get back in, or whether or not he's going to be able to get this move done over Alex Murray, which he isn't. If I was him, I would just probably lift and pull myself back in behind him.
I agree, and I do want to go back to something that Matt Long said as well. He said he expected this stage to go green, because he said that he was thinking about pitting somewhere between splitting it at about 60 and 60, so right down the middle, as we've seen with stage 1, and then what drivers attempted to do in stage 2 before that caution kind of threw a wrench in it. If it does go green all the way, that is going to be detrimental for him, but if we get a caution towards the end of this race, there's a lot of drivers that have extra sets of tires left behind the wall, because we've had so few cautions, so few opportunities to actually use up those tires. And if that happens, then the outcome of this race is going to be completely changed. It's going to be really up in the air, because it seems like when it comes to passing, it is at the beginning of these restarts where everybody jostles for positions and they're able to actually really move up or down the grid, as we've seen a lot of passing in that last restart stage there. It's going to be interesting if that comes to pass, but if it stays green, I don't know. I'm curious what Jonathan Delaney has in terms of a long run car, because we have not really seen him out front that much tonight. This is really the first time he's been out and away on his own. He's kind of been fighting an uphill battle tonight, yet here he is in the lead. What can he do?
He's interesting to see. I'm looking down at the timing software, and currently we've had 7 pit stops out of Mark Paget. Now, regardless, if he's changed tyres every single time, he's running at 2 sets left. Now, if they're going to go for a 60-60 split, he better hope that there isn't another caution, because otherwise it could be, by the end, he could be like Bambi on ice. You know what I mean? He could be sliding down the order all over the place. In regards to Jonathan Delaney, I don't think it would matter where we put Delaney. We could put him at the front, we could put him in the middle. As we saw, he got repairs and dropped off, near the back of the field, and here he is leading. So, does it really matter where you put him? Does it matter what car he's in? He just seems to be naturally quick wherever he is throughout the field. Have they built a long run car? Well, if he's running along the same setup as Matt Long, then the answer is no. But clearly there's obviously got to be some differences, because both of them drive differently. Hit and miss. I think Delaney will do well, but I think from Matt Long's point of view, he kind of needs them he needs Delaney to be holding him up a little bit, so he can start making moves onto the back of Alex Murray and Bryson Hicksonborough.
And look at this freight train we have. I mean, all the way from first back to Van de Sant in 8th. It's just all the way. Actually, he's in 9th. Just single file, bumper to bumper, not really much room between these guys. Very similarly paced early on in stage 3 here. Obviously, we're going to see these guys get a little bit more separated as the stage goes on. But right now, there's a lot of positions up for grabs. If any of these drivers can just get enough momentum, they can just make the right move. There's some points on the here. Now, Bryson in 2nd. he's knocking on the door. He got right up behind that number 6. He looked low, he looked high. The door wasn't open either way, so he had to just kind of wait it out for another lap, which is what he's doing now. But I think right now, as far as short run, he may have the car that could make this pass. He's just got to wait for the 6 to kind of open that door up, as Matt Long is really trying to make that high line work. He's kind of swung himself out there a few times now.
He's done it.
And it worked, yeah.
Yeah.
He got around Alex Murray almost flawlessly. That was really impressive. As Bryson gets loose, this could be another position for Matt Long. Bryson with a bit of a wiggle in the middle of the corner. That's going to put Matt Long up into P2. He's got the preferred line through these first set of corners here. Can he get clear?
Yeah.
And yes, he can. Up to
Just
P2.
tucks in again, did a nice, easy sort of pass on that one, Andre. He was helped by Bryson getting loose, but he made it easy on Alex Murray. So, yeah, stunning job by Matt Long so far.
Yeah, that was a phenomenal set of laps there. I mean, to pick up that many positions and to do it so effortlessly when we've seen how difficult passing can be. Now he's right up behind his teammate, and I think you're right, James. I think they probably are running slightly different setups. Of course, being teammates, they've probably got similar setups. They're probably using the same base, but of course, every driver's going to make tweaks to kind of get that car right where they want it for their driving style. And for me, John's setup, whatever he's running, is a big question mark for me. He's not been in a situation where we're able to easily gauge, because twice now we've seen him have to race his way through the field and really push that car to its limits. So we don't know what that car can do if he's given the opportunity to save. We don't know what that car can do in clean air. We're kind of figuring that out as we go. And the thing is, if we're figuring that out, then John is also figuring that out, because this is his first time really being out front in this race. And I would say it's a stressful thing to try to feel this car out and figure it out on lap 228.
Yeah, definitely. I think the interesting thing is why we've been sat on the gearbox of John Delaney at certain points through the curve. He comes in, and a couple of times Matt Long had popped out to the right. So saying that, Matt Long just got loose. And here comes Bryson Hicksborough around the outside. Matt's just got to keep the inside line as they're coming around now into turn 3 and 4. And Alex Murray's trying to run the outside line now as well. If I was Matt Long, I'd be fighting over the draft of Bryson Hicksborough to see if I can get it back itself. But that was a big moment there for Matt Long, and he's managed to keep the position in front of Alex Murray. So fair play to him. But yeah, he did have a little bit of a moment where he was sliding. Oh, as we're going into the Ford. That's an interesting angle. But yeah, I think the interesting thing for Jonathan Delaney and Matt Long is they had about 1.1 to 1.3 second gap before we hit the stage, Andre. So what they can do together is obviously quick. Matt Long did not have a good restart, and is now finding himself struggling to chase down Bryson. So yeah, together they may be powerful. Singly, we'll see how that one pans out, I think.
Yeah, and Matt Long, if he's worried about the long run speed, sliding around like that and battling super hard for position is not going to help his case. So I think when he's got Bryson breathing down his neck and hounding him and forcing him to kind of overdrive, the smart thing to do is give him that position. Let him drive away, let him use up his equipment, hang back, keep your car underneath of you. If you get some cautions, maybe an opportunity to change some tire pressures or make some final pit road adjustments and get it where you want it, that's good. But even if you don't get that opportunity, just make sure you do as much saving as you can. And you can't save if you're trying to defend from the cars behind. So I would like the play by Matt Long, not battling too hard with Hicksonbaugh. And he sorted that out with Alex Murray pretty quick as well. I think if Murray had gotten any closer, if he had stayed alongside of him, that would have put Matt Long in an awkward situation, because obviously he's going to defend that, but it's going to come at a cost later on for sure. As we do have some side-by-side racing on the screen here. I believe that is Anderson down low of Nolan Hodgson. These two have been side-by-side for a couple of laps now. I think the fact that these guys can remain side-by-side for so long is just testament to how the outside line is starting to really come into its own. Again, not the ideal line, but definitely one that you can use if it comes down to it, which is just a far cry from what we saw at the beginning of the race. I mean, how many times, James, did we see in stage one that somebody got stuck up high and all of a sudden they were just getting absolutely freight trained.
Yeah, they were, dropping down the order, and it was just incredible. But as I said, we touched on it though, didn't we, Andre? We said the more they run on that outside line, the more it will come in. Clearly, it's being able to run and being able to come in like it has been. So, fair play if they're having a go, and even better if they're making it work. Will they ever drop into that 2 banks of 2 that we see at the restarts? Probably not. But towards the end, and on probably round about the last laps in that, I would expect them to be running banks of 2 because they want to try and get the victory.
Absolutely. I also just checked in on the track temp. Again, this race started at 102-degree track temp. We're down to 84, so that's another 10 degrees that it has dropped off since the last time I took a look at it. And that is pretty incredible, how low this track temp has got, especially for Texas. I think to get it down this low at Texas is a bit of an oddity. You don't really see that even in the evening time. So these guys are probably dealing with a lot more grip than they had before. And that's a bit of a luxury, especially with how loose they were at the start of the race when the track was hot. That's being quelled a little bit by the shade that's being cast on the track, by the clouds that have come in, and of course the sun going down slightly. The handling's kind of coming in. And I think maybe, James, that's why the aggression levels have gone up too. At the beginning of the race, the car was basically trying to kill these drivers at every single opportunity. And so they weren't really making risky moves. They weren't pushing the boundaries. But now, cars feel a little bit more comfortable. They don't feel like they're on the verge of wrecking every time they go into a corner. So they think, yeah, I can make this pass, or yeah, I can push this guy. And that's why we're seeing a lot more side-by-side like that right there. Just getting the nose in. Wayne Grassy trying to, oh boy, and then get sideways a little bit, but he saves it. He's still down low. Not going to concede the position yet. Loose again. Hold on to her, Wayne.
Yeah, he's doing some sort of bareback bull riding now, and trying to hold on to that number 7 car. But I think do you know what, Andre? I think you've probably gone and got right again when you've turned around and said that, the aggression levels are starting to sort of bobble up a little bit, because they are, as you know, confidence kind of breeds. When you've got confidence in something, you're happy to take the risk and run it, and I'm not confident at dancing, so I'm certainly not going to go onto a dance floor and bust out a Staying Alive move by John Travolta. But as these guys are getting more and more confident in the outside lines working for them, they're being able to risk it for a biscuit almost and make the passes stick. So they've just got to be sensible doing it, because it's late in the race now. We're 240 in, we haven't got much left on the clock of how many laps they've got to do, and the last thing they want to do is really kind of throw a caution this close to the end. So even though they are got to get brave, they've just got to be a little bit careful at the same time.
And another factor in that equation as well is that we are in stage 3, and there's numerous drivers who got stage points in the first 2 stages. They've put some points in the bank. And that means that if they were to wreck, if there was something to happen, if an ice cream truck were to fall out of the sky and land on their car right now in stage 3, they've already got some points in the bank. It's not going to be a killing blow, and it's not going to be the end of their playoff hopes as long as they've kind of banked those points early on. So they know they have those kind of bonus points. They know they've built up that bit of a safety cushion. So knowing that they have that is also going to contribute to them being just a tick more aggressive. As here goes an overtake right there. Oh boy!
Oh, it's got a big old slide on there. I tell you that much. That was Jason Taylor, and I thought it was definitely. I thought I was expecting another caution there. So, but no, we managed to keep it on track. But they've got to be kind of getting this confidence now. They've run the track long enough, Andre. We're 2:43 in the clock, so they should at least be able to have the confidence in their wheels that they've got underneath them. Because if you've hung on to that car almost for 243 laps, then something was wrong with the setup. They would have gone out and got it smoother beforehand. So they should have a rough idea where they are, should they?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the longer you run, the more your muscle memory starts to build up, and the more you get a sense for the car and a sense for the changing track conditions. And so, yeah, it builds confidence, and it's just a lot of things that add up to these drivers being pretty bold at the end of these races. And we really are getting down to it. We have less than 100 laps to go. We're at 91 remaining, which, 30-second laps, that's going to tick by pretty quickly. So you don't want to be too far back in the grid. You don't want to leave yourself too much work to do because you might not have enough time to do that work. Up towards the front of the field, though, we got a battle starting to transpire again. Bryson Hixenbaugh, Alex Murray. These two, I feel like I've seen this episode before, James.
Yeah, it's been all the way through the race. Technically, if they go green all the way through till the end in about 28.21 minutes, the race will be dropping under checkered flag. Just to let you know. And don't say I've done quick maths in my head there, mate. I didn't. It was on a calculator that I just managed to pop up. So 28.21 minutes, roughly at 90 laps at 30 seconds a lap. So give or take, that's what they should be. Regarding Murray and Hixenbaugh, we have seen it before, all the way through the race, and I think that's the thing. Our top five has kind of almost been a regular top five, hasn't it? With Matt Long is now, unfortunately, he's dropping down the order a little bit, he's down in 8th, but still up 15 places. But the likes of Hixenbaugh, Murray, Giglio, Hoytsma, Van der Sant, they've all been around that kind of area. So it's no surprise that we're looking at the ones that we have. I think the surprise is the fact that Matt Long couldn't hang on to Delaney after the stage finish like he could before. So he's dropped back, well, as I say, he's gone from 2nd to 8th over this green run that we've had so far.
Yeah, and he attributed a lot of his speed to having just slightly fresher tires. He did go down and use a set that a lot of these guys didn't use, and it could just be that the car isn't there. I mean, sometimes you show up to a track and the setup just misses the mark, and you just kind of have to make do with what you got. And even if Matt Long doesn't work his way any further up the grid, even if he finishes right where he's running now, or perhaps even falls a few more positions, he's still got himself a stage win with pretty smart strategy by taking those tires when nobody else did. And so, again, when we're at the playoffs, every point matters. You got to collect as many as you possibly can. If you get a stage win, if nothing else, that's something. And so definitely a good call. Like I said, even if he doesn't go on to win this race or have the result that he wanted. And that is one of, I know a lot of people have their gripes about stage racing, and I do too. Stage racing is definitely not my preferred method of racing. If I had it my way, we'd just go green all the way. Stages wouldn't exist. But that is one of the nice things about stages, is it does kind of give these guys a little bit to think about and a little bit more options when it comes to their strategy, because it's not just about where do I finish the race, it's about when and how can I grab some points and kind of put myself in an advantageous situation, and it makes you think a little bit more. I kind of like that.
Yeah, I think, to be honest, I'd be a big advocate of stage racing. If they did it in, iRacing officials, I'm sure I wouldn't mind if I got to lap 10 out of 40 and I got a couple of points of SR or I rated before I got careered into by some guy who's going from last to first in the first corner. I'd be happy with that, because at the end of the day, at least I could come away and go, well, yeah, all right, I got some points out of it. And, all right, I didn't finish, but I think that's one of the advantages of it. It's there for that reason, isn't it? If you got to the lap 120 and you got points, and then you were involved in a wreck that wasn't your fault, as we can see a car down on the inside there, running it down in the line. I think it's car 76, possibly. But it's there for a reason, is it? And it is there for them that if they got to 120, they got points, and then obviously if they got involved in a wreck that wasn't their fault, at least they got something out of it. And I like the idea. It's a shame you can't incorporate it into really other racing, but then I suppose in a way, Andre, the other racing isn't really long enough to accumulate stages, is it?
Yeah, that is true. I mean, a lot of people don't think of NASCAR or stock car racing as endurance racing, but it is in its own way. Yes, it's not 24 hours of Le Mans or 24 hours of Daytona, but these races do go on for 4, sometimes 5 hours, and I'm sure nobody knows that better than you, James. I know it is about 4 a.m. where you're at.
4 a.m.
So it's going on a little bit longer for you than most people, but it does drag on, and so it does kind of lend itself to the stage format, probably better than most. I mean, you couldn't really do this in an Indy car or a Formula One because those races are about an hour and a half on average, so it does kind of lend itself to that. I do want to point out that whatever setup Delaney has, it's a good one. He's built up 1.6 seconds over Alex Murray, and Bryson Hixenbaugh is about a second behind Murray himself. So we're getting some separation, and there's the lap time differential. Our leader is the fastest out of the top 3, bar none. There is not a single lap in the last 5 that either of these cars behind him have even remotely gained an advantage. So he's flying right now. Now, whether or not he can keep that momentum up later, I don't know, but he's probably feeling pretty good as it stands.
We touched on it earlier. Why wouldn't he? He's 1.7 seconds. He's pulling out time on the guys behind, and at the end of the day, he's got to feel confident in what he's got underneath him. So, the thing I'm not getting is I can't get Matt Long's loss in this second run. I'm a little bit confused. Yes, he's running the high line, and now we're just about to. Matt White's gone underneath him, so he's down into 9th now. That's a big drop off. I don't know if there was an adjustment made or something was made, or they've not spoken about the setup and he's not tried Delaney's setup, or obviously he's not Delaney's car and Delaney's not in Matt Long's car, but I'm just surprised he's gone down the order as quickly as he has, I suppose, Andre. I think that's the thing that I wasn't quite expecting from Matt Long. I thought he would have been right up there with him.
Yeah, it is strange sometimes when you see 2 teammates that are running probably similar setups, and yet they're getting like vastly different performances out of their cars. And I think sometimes what it boils down to is just that stock car racing is a very fickle thing. When you're dealing with lap times that are a matter of 30 seconds and your car is so hypersensitive to every input that you give it, sometimes, and we go 3 wide momentarily there, sometimes if the car is just a hair off, it just doesn't align with your driving style, you're going to lose just a little bit every lap. And because we're clicking off lap after lap after lap, well, that adds up a lot over time. And even if you have a decent setup or a setup that somebody else may find fast, it just doesn't align with your preference, and it affects you big time, as it is clearly affecting Matt Long, who is now dropped outside of the top 10, getting overtaken by Heitman there. So that's going to put Matt Long in P11, just going in the wrong direction, and unfortunate, but again, at the bare minimum, he's got those points banked.
Yeah, that's the weirdest thing. He come in, and obviously we spoke in the interview, and it was all hyped and, looking forward, and did have a few reservations about his car, but he's not. It seems weird that the positions that he's losing is every time he's up high. So if you're losing positions every time you're up high, you would change it, right? Because obviously if I ran into a door once and I hit my head, it would hurt. It doesn't mean I'm going to go run back and do it again 2 seconds later. So if you're repeating a process, for scientific reasons, I may bang on an helmet and think, less if I wore an helmet. But you wouldn't keep repeating the same line, would you? If you're losing positions, and now we're seeing Matt Long down into 12, and I can guarantee if we go and have a look at him, he's possibly still running the outside line, which he is, and he's losing more positions. So.
Yeah, it definitely.
I won't bang my head against the door 50 times to see if I got a different
Hey
outcome.
boys, my mic is hot. Can I throw maybe a suggestion here?
Yeah, go for it.
Oh boy, he gets a little wide there. We saw
way
Matt
wide.
Long in the beginning of this run doing really well, contending for the lead. He was right behind Delaney. But then what happened when we had that in-car or the rear view cam, the gearbox cam as he's in the wall, looking at the 97, exiting 4, he clipped the apron, got himself a little loose, lost 3-4 spots, and since then he hasn't really been running the inside line. So it could be a kind of mental struggle with him where he's like, he doesn't believe he can run that inside line, and he either may be scared or doesn't have the confidence in the car on being able to hold that inside line without clipping the apron, and that's why he may just be running in the middle of it, and that's why he's just losing more and more time.
Yeah, but he's just lost it again. That's what I mean. He's lost another one. You know, repeating a process, something's got to give in your head. You know, if you fall off a horse, you get back on and you ride it again. If I fell off my bike and I've cut my knee, I'm going to go back on and see if I can cut the other one. You know, you've got to get that positive thinking back in your head, because he's gone from second and we're now down into 14th. So I do get what you're saying, that you might not have the confidence in the car, but you're not going to know until you try. And I'd rather go down swinging than go down the order as quickly as he has done.
Yeah, you know, I think there comes a point of no return where if you're losing enough positions, you got to think, well, doing what I'm doing is not going to work. And I'm going to keep going in the wrong direction. I'm going to keep losing positions either way. So I'm going to lose nothing by taking a risk. I'm going to lose nothing by searching around the track. Maybe I go down low. Maybe I try running even higher. Just doing different things to see if somehow I find a little bit more speed. Because, hey, if I do take a risk, I run a different line and maybe I wrecked out. Well, you know what? I was losing positions anyways. I was probably going to finish back here anyway. So, you know, I would be searching around the track if I was him. Now, again, I'm in the booth. He's in the car. There's a reason I'm in the booth. I tried the whole driving thing. It didn't do too well. So, you know, there's
it didn't
that.
work for me either, mate, to be honest. Don't worry. That's why I'm sat here with you. It didn't work for me either. But Cam's in chat and he said, I know car breaks loose on exit when you keep it low with too much wheel in it. Now, is he, unless he's carrying some form of imaginary damage that we can't see, Matt Long, in the space of probably around about, well, can we say from stage beginning? Can we say from lap 211? Because he didn't get the greatest start away, did he? And he lost quite a few places there. From lap 211 to lap 268. Matt Long has gone down 13 positions by running a line that clearly either his car is not set up to run. I know he said in the interview that he didn't want to do, he's not set on a long run, he's too tight, but you got to give it a go, as we can see him get a little bit squirrely in the background there. But unless you give something a go, how are you going to know if it works?
Yeah.
And clearly that outside line isn't working.
Don't know until you try.
Exactly.
I should point out, while this has been going on, Alex Murray has closed the gap ever so slightly. Now, it's not like he's making leaps and bounds towards Delaney, but it was about 1.7 seconds, and he's brought it down to roughly 9/10 of a second. You can see out of the last 5 laps, there was a couple laps where Murray was faster. So I think things are starting to equalize. Delaney was a bit of a rocket ship at the start of this run. He was pulling away and was definitely faster than the cars behind. Right there, he is a little bit faster. He gains a 10th over Murray that time around. But either way, I think with the way the trend is going, Murray's getting a little bit quicker, and Delaney is losing just a little bit of pace. And it doesn't seem like much now, but as these tires continue to degrade and we get a little bit closer to the end of this thing, it's going to add up little by little. Every little bit that Murray gains and every little bit that Delaney loses, that's going to compound. And we may see a battle for this thing. We know that Murray has some pretty solid pace on these extended stints. Now, we do have a taker down pit road. Bryson Hixenbaugh is going to be the first one to make his stop, and that's going to probably start a flood of cars, I would imagine, within the next 5 or so laps. And, you know, I like this call by Bryson. I think he may not have had the car to beat him on pace, but if he can get the undercut and then he can get that clean track, who knows what could happen.
Yeah, exactly. I like Cam in the YouTube chat. I've got it, he says. He's trying to go 130 laps on fuel.
Oh.
Could that be Matt Long's downfall?
I
Fuel
highly
saving
doubt
his head
that.
off.
I'm not sure that's even physically... Like, unless he's got the hollow roll cage with a fuel line shoved up into every inch of that roll cage.
I think, Cam, you're reaching, buddy. I think you're reaching. But then again, you might be right. So, hey, and you drive, so you're probably right. But anyway, we won't worry about that. But maybe, we don't know, maybe he is. But yeah, Alex Murray has closed up from 2 seconds to 1.46 over Delaney now as well. I notice how now, the thing I've noticed is Carlos is not following the cars into the pit boxes after our first round of pit stops. Have you noticed that, OJ? He's not following them all the way into when they stop now, so we can't see. We keep nipping away from the cars as they start coming in. See, he's already stopped. See, missed it. I don't know. Exit sign for Carlos. Oh, here we go. Come on. Please stop what you should do.
Let's see if does he slide through? Does he get it right? He gets it right. Yep, that was a great stop.
Good job. Alright, we're up and away. So what do we reckon? Do you reckon he's going for fuel then? Do you reckon that long? 130 laps on fuel? Because they changed it all now, isn't it? I don't know if this is the same in these ones as it was in the others, but fuel now comes first before tyres. So it's still the same time on these, because I know the drivers were talking. I did a Radical SR10 endurance race the other day, and they were saying that they were doing them at separate times. So I didn't know if they were doing these, but yeah, no. I don't know. Could he go 130 laps?
No way. There's not a chance. I think the only way he could go 130 laps is if he was running them at pace speed. And if he had somebody in a wagon that he was towing that had a few extra gas cans that could kind of reach up there and pour some fuel in there while he was making said pace laps, there's just not really any great way to do that. But I am...
Oh, he missed his pit box. His pit box.
There's another one.
42. Who was that? The number 42 car.
So Nolan Hodgson slides through his pit box. We'll see. Does Alex Van de Sant continue the trend here in the 96 machine? He's working his way down to his stall. Damaris Hickenbottom leaving his stall. And he got it right. We're good. But anyways, as I was saying, Jonathan Delaney staying out this long is kind of surprising to me. Obviously, he's got a good long run car, so I could see where he may have a little bit of confidence staying out this long. But there's a lot of drivers that are going to be making up a lot of time on him staying out this long, and we saw in stage one the drivers that stayed out a little bit too long, like Damaris Hickenbottom and a couple others. Those guys that stayed out extended beyond everybody else, lost a lot of time, and right now there's not a whole lot of race left. You cannot afford to lose that time right now, because you're just not going to be able to make it up before the end of this race. So here he comes down pit road now, and we're going to see locked up the tires there, some smoke going into pit road. I don't think he got a penalty. I'm pretty sure he got it rolled up. But Alex Murray is going to follow him down pit road as well. And that's going to leave Hoytsma, Giglio, Derek Heitman on track still. So 3 more drivers needing to come down pit road. John cuts it close there. I think I think that splitter was touching that white line. But hey, it's safe.
He's got it done, hasn't he? I thought it was going to be overshot that then. Well, there was a little bit of movement going backwards. They haven't got long. They got 54 laps now. And they've got to start getting this right. They've got to start getting what they're going to do correct. And this is where we're going to start seeing the action, and this is where we might start seeing cautions, because they've got them all kind of jostle around a bit now to get their positioning for that last sort of 10 lap run in, where it all gets a little bit exciting. So they've got to try and do, as we can see the leader Giglio go into the pits there. I think that's not going to be the lead for very long because Jonathan Delaney was out well before he come in. So I think Delaney is in with backup with a chance of taking it the lead possibly again. However, it looks like Bryson Hicksborough may have jumped him. So we'll see how that one pans out.
So Hixenbaugh definitely getting ahead of him in terms of track position, but now here's the thing, he's going to have a lot older tires than Jonathan Delaney, so that gap that he built up, that advantage he's given himself, he's going to need it. He's going to need every last inch of that track that he's put between him and John Delaney, and when John gets to him, which I firmly believe John will catch up, despite the insane amount of time he has lost here, 4.5 seconds currently, he's going to catch up. If his pace is anything like it was at the beginning of Stage 3, I would say give it roughly 15 laps and he's going to be there. But going back to the rivalry that these two have, I think Bryson is going to be a little bit more defensive when he sees this number 6 show up in his mirror than anybody else. He's going to be willing to throw some pretty crazy blocks and make John's life very difficult once he gets there. So could be a bit of a show.
So you're optimistic Jonathan Delaney's going to get there?
I think he does. He's already down to 3.9 seconds, so he's taken a few tenths off already. He's on his way.
Yeah, but he's got to go through the same traffic that Bryson's currently on the nose going through. You know, so I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, I can't see. I don't know. I'm not maybe as optimistic as you are. Lap times are close, 30.31, 30.69. So it's possible. It's possible, but we'll see what happens.
So it's down to 3.6 seconds now. So he's reeled in by about a second since he came out of pit road. Now, I will say this really good speed that he's got right now, that is going to diminish as his tires wear. You kind of hit something called the tire wear plateau, and it's kind of the point where it doesn't matter if your tires are 20 laps old or 40 laps old, they're just going to be the same lap time, and it evens out. So if Bryson can hold off John until they hit that plateau, then he's got a good shot. And looking at the lap times, I think the plateau is already starting to sort of kick in. You can see he was 4 tenths, 3 tenths, and then all of a sudden, 1 tenth on 283, 2 tenths on 284. So it is starting to diminish. He's not reeling him in quite as quickly. And the other thing to consider is once John does get up to that 63, now he's in dirty air. That car's not going to handle as well. So I still think he gets there, but I don't think it's going to be an easy matter when it comes to making the pass. It's going to be a fight.
Yeah. I don't think Bryson's just going to roll over and let him tickle his tummy, is it? He's going to, make sure the car is in the position where it needs to be. He's not going to say, well, there you go, son, on your bike, carry on. But I do think as well that it's going to be a different prospect. If we're going to have this gap, and we're going to have that 4-second gap, I think Delaney and Hicksborough could be down for a spicy run towards the end. And I think if it's them two on the final lap, yeah, not quite sure how that one's going to pan out, to be honest.
Yeah, it'll be kind of unpredictable, and I think lap traffic will, of course, kind of add to the wild card factor as we're focusing in on Matt Long, who finds himself in a gaggle of cars here. He's got Blake Giglio in front of him, Robert Anderson, he's got Hodgson behind him. So a lot of work to do here now. He is doing pretty well after the pit sequence. Obviously, he dropped down to 13th, I believe, before he came down pit road, and now he's back up to 8th. So we'll see if he can hold on to this top 10 position, get himself at least a decent point stay here. Good mid-run speed. We'll see what he can do. But up front, the gap between Hixenbaugh and Delaney is now 2.8 seconds. So about 8 tenths of a second reeled in since the last time we checked on them. Van de Sant is 4 seconds back from our race leader, about 2 seconds back from Jonathan Delaney. And again, Van de Sant not in it for the playoffs, but man, he's showed up really strong today and hasn't really led the race, and maybe he hasn't been the car to beat, but you gotta respect the absolute just crazy run that he's had to get his way up through the grid to compete with these playoff drivers to say, hey, I don't care that I'm not in the playoffs. I'm going to come up here and I'm going to fight for a podium. He's having a good night.
Yeah, and he's another one that we haven't really covered much of. You know, we've seen him go into the pits and that, and then come back out, but we haven't really seen him, if you get what I mean. He's just kind of quietly gone about his business. And I suppose from his point of view, if we're not noticing that he's moved up into third, he's kind of almost doing it right because he's not being seen. So I think Van der Zandt, you know, will go away happy if he can keep hold of that third place and sort of think, well, actually, it's not been a bad evening of racing.
No, not at all. Anytime you can be racing for a podium, especially in a league with a strength of field like this, you're having a pretty good time, I would reckon. And again, he's been getting better all season long. I believe that when it comes to oval racing, he has some oval racing experience, but his primary experience that he has had on this service has been the road side of things. And so you kind of can see as the season has gone on the learning curve that he's had, just improving here, improving there, little things about his technique getting better every week. And I think one of these days it'll culminate into a win. He's not been far off of it at all. And, you know, coming into the next season, or maybe even towards the end of this season, we may see him snag one. But look at that, James. The gap between the leader, under a second.
Yeah, I might have to eat my words here. You know what I mean? I didn't think he was going to get him, to be fair. I thought Bryson was going to be quick, but clearly the clean air's affecting, well, I suppose in a way works better for Delaney than it did for Hicksonborough. Shame, really.
You can see
Bryson has driven well, hasn't he?
Oh yeah, he's had a great run. I mean, he's doing what he needs to do. It's just at this point, being on those older tires is not the play. You can see the lap time differential right there: 0.2, 0.4, 0.6 on lap 291, then back to about 0.5, and then 3.38. He is consistently reeling him in. Now, as he gets to the rear bumper, this is where it changes, right? You would think with him gaining half a second a lap, he's going to make short work of Bryson. He's going to get around him immediately, but I don't think it's going to be that simple. I think now that he's in dirty air, right behind the leader, and now that Bryson has to start playing some defense, it's going to be a bit of a waiting game. I think even if he gets alongside of him, Bryson may still be able to pull back out in front. And maybe I'm wrong, John, down to the bottom, and he's got a huge run down the back straightaway. He may get clear before they even reach the corner, and he does. What a run. I don't know where that speed came from, but out and away, new leader, John Delaney.
Yeah, I think now, to be honest with you, I don't think Delaney, if he can make up the gap that I said he couldn't, which really goes to show that I got it completely wrong, there's no reason he can't go and open up that gap the other side. And as you see a car disappear there, that's not going to make it easy. And if he's going to open up that gap the other side of that, this is going to be Delaney's race to lose. And I think that's the way it's going to pan out. I think it is Delaney's race to lose, because the gap's out to 0.8 already, going up to, it's going to be over a second by the end of lap 297, I would have thought. So, yeah, I don't know what anybody else could do. Chuck our anchor at him and maybe try and slow him down, but I think this is Delaney's all day.
Yeah, definitely seems to be playing out that way. But again, you never know. Things can definitely get changed, especially if we were to have a late race caution. That would completely shuffle things up, as Hicksonborough has already fallen 1.3 seconds back, and Alex Van der Zandt still 2.3 seconds back, pretty consistent in pace, and Alex Murray back in fourth. Lucas Hoytsma rounding out your top five. As we approach lap 300, we're going to throw it to a quick crank it up so you can take in the sights and sounds of Texas. And we're back from the Crank It Up, taking in the sights and sounds of Texas Motor Speedway. Jonathan Delaney's still out front. He has opened up a 3-second gap. James, you said he was going to continue to open that gap up on the other side, and man, oh man, that he has 3 seconds in just a few laps.
Yeah, if he's done that already over the 4 laps, which is roughly when he passed you, about 2:98, I think it was. If he's pulled 3 seconds over 4, what's he going to do over 34 or 32 that we've got left? You know what I mean? It's all on Delaney now. Delaney's got to keep hold of this lead. That's the story of the race.
Yeah, just don't make any mistakes. Don't do anything too crazy. As long as you're hitting your marks and you're, doing your job, you should be all right. I mean, the pace is definitely there. That much we know. It just seems like nobody else really has that long run speed. And oh boy, big wiggle out of Hodgson. He's in the wall.
No. Keep it out. Keep it out.
Drivers scrambling to get around him. They're gonna be able to get around. Man, oh man, that could have been huge.
Yep, could have been a lot worse than it was. But he manages to hold it, Nolan Hodgson, so that's one good thing, I suppose.
If that had been a caution, that would have just turned everything on its head. Because a lot of these guys still have tires, and I would imagine that everybody and their brother would be coming down pit road to get tires if they could. So that would have been quite chaotic, but we're going to stay green, and luckily for John, things are going to continue to be pretty smooth. Now, I believe the 42 Hodgson picked up some pretty substantial damage from that hit. He's been a little bit off pace ever since he got into the wall there, and that is not the first time he's made contact with the wall either, so that'll be compounding. But yeah, no, pretty kosher all throughout the field. Everybody's just kind of running their race. We've got quite a bit of separation throughout the field, and like you said, James, if you're John, just hit your marks.
Yeah, there's no reason to do anything else. Clearly you're quicker. We can see that. Clearly, at the end of the day, you've just got to finish. And Delaney's just got to now sit back in the car and he's an experienced driver. He's not short of iRating. He's not short of licenses or SRs. So it's not like I should be feeling any pressure, really. From the team point of view overall, though, yeah, I would probably have a chat and try and debrief with each other and discuss what has happened to Matt Long in this last sort of half of the race, really, and see if there was anything that maybe Delaney could have done to help him. But yeah, Alex Murray's doing a great job up in 2nd place. Bryson Hicksborough in 4th, and again the number 96 Machine Van der Zandt just kind of perched in the middle in 3rd. So overall, I think what we've witnessed is probably, I think the only words we can really use is kind of a clean consecutive race from everybody, isn't it? Because that's kind of what we watched.
Yeah, that has been the running theme of the night, just clean consecutive laps, only 2 cautions for cause, and they happened back to back. So the majority of this race has been run completely clean, completely green, and it's just been a consistency game. It's been a game of who can battle off the mental fatigue the most, and that is a big thing that we really haven't even mentioned. When you have these long green flag runs and there's so little happening, as a driver, it's easy to kind of check out. Sometimes you start to get distracted, you're not really thinking too hard, and then you start making mistakes as Hixenbach drops another position there, and it's going to put him back in 5th. So really starting to run down the order here. He's losing pace on this longer run. Again, he was one of the first ones to come down pit road, so at this point, everybody's going to have fresher tires than him. But yeah, no, for these drivers, for this race to go the way that it's gone, so green flag the entire time, there's a lot of mental and physical fatigue that you got to fight off.
Yeah, and I think that's what people don't kind of get. When you do an endurance race, if you're on a road circuit, for instance, doing an endurance race, you can guarantee your stint is only going to be for about an hour and a half, unless your teammates drop out, and then you might go a little bit longer. We've been at this now, nearly 4 hours, 4 hours? 3.5 hours, and the guys are still going. So the mental reaction that they've got to have, you know, is massive. It's like you're building a fort in your head to almost get rid of any of the fatigue that you're feeling, because you just can't now. You've got 24 laps to concentrate, and the last thing you want to do is drive for 3.5 hours and stack it in the wall at the end. Because I don't know about you, Andre, but I've come off feeling very disappointed with myself, and may use a few choice words in the process if I went and stacked it in the wall this late in the race.
Yeah, that's never a good feeling, to dedicate not only the 3.5 hours that we've been racing only to have it kind of taken away at the very end. But again, this is an all-week affair for these guys. These guys are spending the entire week working on setups, turning practice laps, trying to figure out what they're going to do, and then, of course, qualifying as well. The qualifying session is up pretty much throughout the entire week, so they can qualify at their own leisure whenever they please. And so during the weekdays, usually Friday or Thursday, these guys hop on, they post their qualifying times. It's a dedication. It's a commitment to be a part of a league like this. And so if you were to make a mistake right at the tail end and have something happen just right so close to the checkered flag, it's definitely devastating.
Yeah, I think the feeling of despair would be absolutely immense, because you would just be gutted. You've got a full week, you practice, you've done it all, and then lap 24 you go and stack it into the wall. You'll be so unhappy with yourself. But I don't think we're going to see any of that on the upside, Andre. We aren't going to see any of that. We've only had 2 cautions throughout the whole race that have been caused by cars, and obviously one was caused by Carlos shouting at me hero. But at the end of the day, they've done well, and I think, you know, 20 laps to go, they're going to smash it. Matt White up beside Derek Heitman at the moment. Matt's got the inside line. It should be... Yeek! Oh, that should have been a lot cleaner than it looked on screen. They're not going to be running it 3 wide, surely.
Oh man, they tried.
Oh. Yeah, I thought it was Gunu, didn't I? It was that Matt White, Matt Dicciani behind him. I thought he was going to have a go as well, but now he's going to have a go at Matt White instead. But no, these guys are sensible, mate, and I'm, you know, 19 laps to go. We'll be all good, mate. All good.
Well, way to give them the commentators curse.
Yeah, I know, and that's what I was fearful of. And you know, that's just a weird thing all in all altogether. But look, let's give credit where credit due. These guys have done a stellar job. So if they can run, what was it, 105 laps, 105 laps at the beginning without a caution, they can do it for 18.
Oh yeah, no, they're in the home stretch, and I think at this point, this is where the mental fatigue starts to kind of fade away, because you get so close to the end, the adrenaline starts pumping up again, and you're like, okay, this is it. We just got to get through this. And so everybody's kind of giving it their all right now. The gap from first to second, Alex Murray currently P2, is 3.8 seconds. So a huge lead that is only getting bigger every lap for Jonathan Delaney. Alex Van de Sant 5 seconds back. Lucas Hoytsma in 4th. He's 5 seconds back. And Bryce Nixonbaugh has lost 6 seconds to Jonathan Delaney. He's all the way back in 5th. Blake Giglio is in 6th. He is 8 seconds back from our leader. And then from there, you've got Anderson, Paget, Taylor, and Heitman. So 17 seconds from 1st to 10th. Huge separation, and a number of cars going laps down as we reach the tail end of this thing. Right now, I think so many things are just kind of set in stone that if you're Delaney, you're just white-knuckling that steering wheel and you're thinking, okay, just no caution, no yellow flags, nothing crazy happening, just stay green, let me get to the checkered flag, because, man, oh man, sometimes it feels like things can be too calm for too long, and you feel like you're overdue for a caution, or you're overdue for something crazy to happen, and when you're in the lead, that feeling is just amplified.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, on the brief occasions I have actually managed to get out in front in a race within iRacing in general, it is a little bit nerve-wracking. You know, you do sort of get the butterflies going and the stomach going, and then you start missing your braking points, and then you start trying to go a little bit faster, and then before you know it, you're screaming into your steering wheel because you've stuck it in the corner somewhere in the wall. But, you know, Delaney's experienced enough. He's not going to do that. And, you know, he's got to try and battle that mental block that you would have, because you don't want to be sitting there thinking, please don't do a caution, please don't do this, please don't do that, because you'll end up doing it yourself. So he can't think like that. And I think with, you know, 14 to go on the clock, he definitely isn't thinking like that at all. I think he's just wishing that everybody else would think like that and not cause the caution that could put him into a big heap of pressure with 14 laps to go.
Absolutely. As we're focusing in on Anderson in the number 11, he's trying to run down, I believe, Giglio in the number 16 for position here. And Anderson not being in the playoffs doesn't really need the points all that bad, but Giglio sure does, so he's going to be battling pretty hard for this position. I'm not sure he's going to be able to hold him off, though. Anderson's been getting pretty good as of the last few laps. He's been closing in. Now he's finally right at the door. Now the 16 drives it in a little bit deeper. You can see he just pulls ahead, but Anderson not making it easy. He drove in pretty deep as well, actually slid up almost half a lane. We're going to stay side by side. Advantage goes to Anderson heading into 1 and 2. Can Giglio fight back? He drives it in so deep. I don't know how he's doing that, but I mean, he is just 30 or 40 feet past the braking point, just sailing it in, and it's still not going to be enough. Anderson takes a position.
Yeah, I think that was kind of, I'm not going to say a losing battle, because it's not the right words to do. And as we see there, Giglio comes back on the inside. Maybe he's going to try an inside run and say, well, I'm going to put you on the outside now and see how you like it, because that's what you just had me. What we thought on the outside line would come in kind of hasn't really come in as much as we expected it to. I think, you know, we both were expecting it to come in a little bit sharper and quicker, and, you know, more and more people would run it, but it didn't quite get there as what we were expecting. And you know, Giglio's found himself behind Anderson currently at the moment, with 10 laps to go.
Yeah, only 10 remaining in this race, and just kind of slowly working his way up the board, trying to grab a few positions here at the end if he can, but maybe not secure in that position. Giglio right on his bumper. Well, I say that, and then Giglio gets a little bit loose and kind of succeeds that position. But it's like the closest battle other than these guys is going to be between Hoytsma and Hixenbaugh. These two drivers are, I believe, within the same second of one another. That would be for position of playoff drivers. There they are on track. There's Lucas Hoytsma right there.
No, that's Hixenbaugh, and I think Hixenbaugh's got back markers behind him, because at the moment there's quite a few gaps appearing on the track. I think that's the Anderson and Giglio battle. Oh, actually, to be fair, catching Hixenbaugh himself. So Hixenbaugh there has got to be looking at himself, because otherwise he could be going down 2 positions fairly quickly with only 8 to go there, mate. So yeah, Hixenbaugh's in a little bit of a little bit of trouble.
Yeah, you know, he tried the undercut, and it did temporarily work. I mean, it got him out front for a while, but unfortunately for him, I think for that strategy to truly play out at peak efficiency, he would have needed a yellow flag about 30 laps ago, and that would have really completed the tactic that he was trying to pull off. And unfortunately, never got that yellow flag. It stayed green, and now he's just kind of trying to limp around the track on really old tires and salvage whatever positions he can.
Yeah, well, they've got a lap in. His in lap was 270, so he's done 64 laps on them tyres. But they did go off quite early, though, didn't they? Delaney passed him at 280, or was it 298? So I suppose technically, no, they'd probably done 28 laps, but yeah, I thought they might have held up a little bit longer, but I suppose it depends on how he's been driving the car. So, you know, if he's on 68 lap old tyres by the time he gets to the end of the race, that could be why poor old Bryson Hixenbaugh is losing positions. And he might lose, I think he might end up losing them to Anderson as well.
That is a definite possibility as Anderson is closing in. I hadn't really noticed that, but he is really starting to close in on this 63, and if he gets to him, he does have a few laps to try and get that extra position. That'd put him up inside the top 5. Right there, you can see there's Anderson on the right side of the screen, and Bryson just drove off the left side. So, bit of a gap, and only 4 laps remaining to make something happen, but I'm not going to say it's impossible. Out front, things largely the same. Jonathan Delaney still leading the way. He's got 4 seconds over Alex Murray. BenSound about 5 seconds back. And then we're back to these battles that we've been watching and following along with here. So Bryson way down low on the track here, trying to hug that white line, just hit his marks. You can see Anderson's a little bit closer now than he was last lap, but I think the rate he's closing may not be enough. As long as that traffic between them kind of keeps them separated and maybe holds up Anderson, I think Bryson's going to be pretty comfortable where he is, and he shouldn't have too much pressure, but he's going to get around another lapped car there, right where you want to catch the lapped car, right there in the tri-oval. That's about the most ideal place you want to make that pass. If you catch him coming out of the corner or going into the corner, sometimes it really makes it difficult to run your line, but played out pretty solid for him there.
Yeah, I think looking at previous lap times, they're both in the 32s. Anderson's on a 32.15, Hickson-Bart on a 32.24. So, you know, I think at the end of the day, I think it may have been possible, but I don't think he's going to. I'm going to put my neck out. And I don't think Anderson is going to catch Hickson-Bart. It's not possible with only 2 laps to go, running the same lap time. So it's been a good race, but we knew this kind of was coming, didn't we? We talked a couple of times during the ad break, and we just said that obviously there's no stopping Delaney.
No, white flag is out, and there is no stopping John. He's just been the dominant car of stage 3. I won't say the dominant car of the race. He was kind of marred in the pack in the first 2 stages and kind of had some issues that held him back. So had a few other drivers that got their time to shine up front, but once John did get up here, he had that clean track. He just never, ever looked back, and it is going to be Jonathan Delaney winning in the round of 12, locking himself into the round of 8 here at Texas in dominant fashion. 4.8 seconds over the next car, Alex Murray, bringing home P2. Man, oh man, only 2 cautions on the night.
Yeah, that was, I think, I'm not going to say we predicted it, because, you know, I'm pretty sure we discussed it intensely and said that obviously, you know, the wide nature of the track doesn't really bring into the cautions, you know, and these guys didn't do anything crazy, which kind of helped, and they were all very sensible. So, you know, 2 cautions out of 334 laps without obviously the 2 staged cautions. I think we did rather well. Good job, boys.
Not very often you can say you had a 3.5-hour race that only had 2 yellows for cause. As John burns it down to the ground, he's going to be celebrating this win probably more than the wins he's had previously this season, because it's been a little while. I mean, John's won a lot this season, but he's been away from racing for a couple weeks. He's kind of been missing races here and there, and then when he did show up, he was having a bit of a rough time with the setup, so finally back in victory lane. He's probably pretty stoked about that. Final running order for the night: Jonathan Delaney, of course, bringing home the win. Alex Murray, Alex BenSound, Lucas Hoytsma, Bryson Hickson-Bart, Robert Anderson, Blake Giglio, Paget, Heitman, Taylor, Ticciani, White, Long, Grassy, Hutchison, Hodgson, Hickenbottom. Scrumeda is going to be P18, and behind them, once this scrolls, we have in P19 Brockman, Marty, Drumhiller, Mobley, Baker, Ammon, Alexander, Roethlisberger, Alex Princeton, Trevor Ryan, and to round out the rest of the field, all the way back to 36th, it is going to be Rob Tracy, Hooper, McRae, Steele, Hall, Acerenze, Pierce, Sanner, Bird, and Samuelson. Now, James, I understand it is getting pretty late where you're at, and you're going to dip out just a little bit early, and I just want to say I appreciate you joining us here in the booth again. It was great working with you. You make it easy, man. Hopefully you enjoyed the race. I know sometimes races like this are difficult, but I had a lot of fun.
Yeah, man, thoroughly enjoyed it as always. And a big shout out to Carlos from FreeYTV for having me in. So much love to you. Don't forget, guys, subscribe, like, turn on the bells for notification. That would go a massive way. But yeah, I'm going to bail out. I'll let you do the interviews, young sir, as you do an exceptional job anyway, Andre. But for me, see you later.
We'll catch you later, man. And that is going to be co-commentator James out of the booth again. Big shout out to him for doing these broadcasts at just absurd hours. Being in the UK, it is about 5 in the morning for him when these races end. So absurd dedication, and it is much appreciated. It's sometimes difficult to find consistent commentators. It's a long race and a difficult job. So it's been a huge help. We're going to bring in our podium drivers for some interviews. Let's try and get third place Alex Van de Sant first. Mr. Van de Sant, you got a copy?
I gotcha.
Well, Alex, another great run in a long line of good runs that you've had this season. Brings you home on the podium. Tell me about your race, man. How were you feeling?
Felt really, really good. We had a great car. I probably could have won stage 1, but got held up for a bit. Was great in the long run. Did a good job saving my tires. Finally got a hang of that, and put together a podium. Was going to be close to Alex. I think like a couple more laps or some nicer lap traffic, I would have had a shot. But still, can't be upset about a podium at all. It's been kind of an up and down season. Some good runs, but I think this is only my second podium since joining. So, but some good momentum for the rest of the playoffs. Great team points, and just really a lot of good things to come away with.
Absolutely. Now, it seemed like passing was the trouble for everybody tonight. It seems like the dirty air played a big part, at least from our perspective up in the booth. How was the track racing today, and what was the actual competition like?
Yeah, it was very tough. Saving the tires was just so important, and it's been like that at these intermediates and even some of the short tracks. So you really got to balance that aggression and need to get that track position with being able to have that long run pace. Balance that with the risk of a caution, and I think most people got the hang of it for the final few runs. Just when you got behind somebody, the dirty air was tough. It was so hard to get it down to the bottom of the track and then get good drive off without lighting up the rears, and then you're going to be slow for 3 more laps. And so it was tough, but I think I'm happy with how it played out.
Absolutely can't complain about a podium. Before we let you go, Alex, is there any shout outs you'd like to make?
As always, big thanks to all the guys at Silver Bullet Racing and Triad Racing Enterprises. I've learned so much from them since joining midway through this season, and I think I've come a long way with my driving all around. Just looking forward to closing out the season. And big thanks to them for all their support.
All right. Well, thanks for your time, Alex. Good luck next week.
Thanks, guys.
Third place out of the booth. We're going to go ahead and bring up the other Alex Murray, bringing it home P2. Alex Murray, you there?
Yep, I'm here.
Well, Alex, you brought it home P2. You made a few late race passes and got yourself up into a nice, comfortable podium position. You had a lot of long run speed. It seemed like you were one of the better cars in the long run, and just seemed like you were pretty comfortable out there all night. Tell me about your race.
It was far from comfortable. Every pit stop we were changing something with the car and just couldn't find exactly what I wanted, but we definitely got it better, and I think that showed toward the end of the race. I know Alex was better and Lucas was better earlier on in the race, and probably stage 1, stage 2 they were probably a second place, third place car, and we just kept digging, and we were probably a solid 7th place car when the race started, and we somehow managed to get it to a 2nd place car, so I'll take it. Good points moving on to Talladega, which is always a toss-up, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah, speaking of Talladega, wild card race, never really know what's going to happen, but SBR has a pretty good track record at plate tracks. You guys tend to be pretty solid there. What are your thoughts going into that race?
It's Talladega. You just never know what's gonna happen, and with RJ being on SBR and myself being aligned with RJ because he's on my team outside of here, I think I have a shot to work with those guys. I don't have any friends. Nobody's on my team right now, so it's just me against the rest of them. So I got to find somebody to work with at Dega and be smart. Just try to keep getting stage points and try to lock ourselves into the round of 8.
Absolutely. Well, again, thank you for your time. Is there any shout-outs you'd like to make?
Klipsch Audio Systems, BRTV, BD Technology Group, Shamrock Auto Care, just everybody that supports me, Prodigy Sports, everybody, and my girlfriend especially. She's always supportive, and she was yelling at me earlier because I was at the racetrack all day today, and she's like, "You better get home for that race," because she wanted to watch it. And I don't know how she sits through 334 laps of Texas, but with one caution or 2 cautions. But I don't know how she does it, but she does it, and she's amazing. So got to thank her, and obviously all the family support, and then you guys for putting on the show and allowing us to put our sponsors on display for everybody. So on to Talladega, and hopefully we survive it.
All right. Well, thanks for your time. We'll catch you next week.
Alrighty, 10-4, guys.
All right. Just one interview left. It's going to be John Delaney. Let's see if we can dial him up. You got a copy, John? John Delaney, you got a copy?
I do.
Well, John, that was quite the race. In the first 2 stages, it seemed like you were kind of marred in traffic, had a few things that were holding you back, and then, man, stage 3 started, and you were gone. Man, I mean, just the dominant car in stage 3. Tell me about it.
Well, yeah. Honestly, I was a little shocked there. That last stage, I was kind of shocked I had that much speed on it. Yeah, first half of the race, though, I was struggling. If you would have told me I was going to win this race, I think you'd be crazy because my car was so bad. First half of the race, I had no drive off of turn 2 or 3. It was just so loose. So made adjustment just about every pit stop this race, except for the last pit stop there. But yeah, constantly worked on the car all night trying to get it better. Yeah, played that strategy right at the end of stage 2 to get out in the lead, and after that we were just able to keep the clean air, stay out in front, and just drive away with it, which was very, very nice because it's been a while. It has been a long time.
Yeah, we were talking about that. It's been a little while since you won a race. Now, obviously, this is your 8th win on the season, so you're no stranger to victory lane, but you took a little bit of time off. You missed a few races here and there, and then the last few races you showed up to, it seemed like the setup just was fighting you all the time. So I'd imagine that put a little bit of wind in your sails, huh?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I definitely haven't had as much preparation into these past, pretty much the last half of the season here. Haven't been able to put as much time as I want to, and so, but no, it's all right. Hopefully we can make it to the final 4. I feel pretty confident. So, but being able to lock into the round of 8, I feel pretty good.
Yeah, absolutely. Don't have to worry about Talladega, the absolute insanity that'll be. That's probably a weight off your shoulders. Well, anyways, John, before we let you go, is there any shout-outs you'd like to make?
Yep. Everyone in this league, always a fun time every week. Admins, Damaris and Kevin. Gotta thank you guys up in the booth for broadcasting. Always a fun time going back and watching them. Everyone at home watching, thank you for watching. Let's see. Kevin Steele for the paint scheme. Looks good. Stint Analyzer as well. Lockdown Race and all of our sponsors over there. Yeah, Jason S. Taylor for some of the help this week with the set. So that's all I got. Thank you guys.
All right. Well, thanks for your time, John. Congratulations on the win. We'll see you in the round of 8.
See you guys.
Race winner out of the booth, and that is going to do it for our post-race interviews, and that is pretty much going to do it for this show. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in. We appreciate it. Next week's going to be a doozy. Talladega is always it's a fan favorite, and for good reason. It's unpredictable. I've always compared it to a lottery. That's just me. It's kind of anything can happen. So it'll be fun, and it'll be right here on 3Wide TV. Again, thanks for tuning in. Big shout out to James for co-commentating, and of course Carlos Acosta pushing the buttons, bringing all the action to your TVs and computers. I've been Andre Graham Bush alongside 3Wide TV, and we will see you next week.